Women in Florida having sex with octopuses. Y'all are infidels. We're burning witches tonight. Not even Smokey the Bear is going to be able to save your ancestors this time, you stupid moron.
Someone in the comments fixed him with a band-aid. That was good. I'm sorry, that was fucking good. Anyways.
Well, that's my job as a woman, I think, first and foremost. And then as a writer, I got to maintain some level of like, making sure that, your place.
Everything that they've done since claiming the PS5 is for hardcore gamers. It's just simply appeal to the casuals.
That's about it. Follow me on Twitter. Preserve film, just like preserving video games. I don't know.
Hunter! What's up? In the White House? Seriously?
Well, Marvel and what Stan Lee, I think, I don't know if it was genius or laziness. It's like, we'll just put them all in one city. We won't even make up a fictionless, and we'll just use new.
Here the night, what you got coming up for tomorrow?
I'm perfectly sober.
Lies.
Thank you. Are you home? Do you have children? Must not you be their hope? Are there future generations from all of us who have failed them?
And the mom shaming, a term typically used to highlight harsh judgment of birthing people.
Oh my God. These stupid
Who wrote this shit? Who wrote this shit?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and yes, after the 60 episodes that Rob Motto has appeared on this show, that is the best clip that I can pull out for the intro of the show. So how you guys doing, ladies and gentlemen? We're here, episode, was it 68 now for the Barroom Podcast? We're one more away from the 69 jokes being laid upon us for another show, but that's next Tuesday night. That's not tonight. We're here to talk about a whole course of things, and we got a interesting panel of people joining us for this show here tonight. I guess we should start off with Rob Motto because we did bury him in the first 3 minutes of the show. How you doing today, Robert?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm trying to not be annoyed at the NFL when everybody else is like, I'm so fucking sick of your bullshit. So, yeah, it's good. I'm really excited for Killers of the Flower Moon. It's coming in a couple weeks, and I think the NFL season's been great so far. But there's been a lot of injuries and some questionable officiating. Let's just say that.
And a whole lot of Taylor Swift that nobody wants. And we'll talk about that as the course of this night goes on. Also joining us here is our good buddy Cider joining us once again. How you doing today, buddy?
I woke up. What do you want from me? I woke up.
That's something you say after you've been married to your wife for like 34 years. And that's something for
Look at me. Don't I look like I've been married for 30 years? And I'm only 34.
It looks like your soul has been married for 34 years. There you go. Also joining us here, fresh on the picture side of things, our good buddy Cool Classic Cage. How you doing today, Cassie?
Doing good, man. Got me a nice graphics card upgrade for my PC. So I've not been getting sleep because I've been trying every game that is graphically intensive to just test out what I could do. Just be a complete total asshole about it.
I mean, you can basically see like every wrinkle on her face now. If this struggle of playing video games for endless points of the night. So there you go.
With a smile.
You're supposed to use middle fingers.
She was even too tired to do that. That's how worn out she is.
I'm surprised I can even find my middle fingers, but here you go.
Our good buddy, our good buddy Orange Hat is also joining us here tonight. How you doing, Orange?
I'm doing good. Just retooled my channel a little bit more, and yeah, just living.
Just straight Orange Hat now. No more reviews, right?
Well, I'll still do reviews here and there, but yeah, I decided to just change it to Orange Hat instead.
I'm so glad you didn't go at Hollywood, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can't pull
like,
off the Californian.
don't.
I'm not Californian, so it's like Orange Hat Hollywood did. No,
I had to look out for you on that one.
And then joining us here for I think maybe the second or third time you've been here on this show, our good buddy Mark with a C is also joining us here tonight. How you doing today?
Hey, all right, feeling spiffy. Just got back off the road. I was actually at a funeral. It was for my grandfather who fell short of 2 weeks of his 100th birthday.
Wow.
He would have been this week would have been this Friday would have been his 100th birthday. But it's still a triumph and it's still a celebration because he came through some really, really rough times. He was in the Navy and in World War II, so they came out and played taps and everything. And I couldn't be prouder. It just makes you really, really appreciate life. You know what I mean? It's like you don't get down too much on things like this. You just let it lift you up, man, and get you invigorated. This is the only life that we have. So you got to go full speed ahead, man. And, if I can be even a quarter of the man that he was, then I'll be doing good. So I'm here to kick ass, man, just the same as he did.
Yeah, I mean,
the Betty White. He pulled a Betty White.
And Bob Barker. Didn't Bob Barker die right before his 100 too?
I think so.
Yeah, it's like you get right up to the door and somebody says that.
Nope.
No.
Look,
maybe Dick Van Dyke. Let's hope so.
No, it's the Legos. Look, it's from 3 to 99. That's the rule. When you can't play with Legos anymore, what's the point? What is the point when you can't play with Legos anymore?
It's like when you get to 100, it's like 404 error, and then just done. But,
you're done with Legos. You can't play with them. They stop you right at Legoland. They're like, I'm up, too old. Sorry.
Oh man,
that is true.
Put it this way, I was born and raised 90 minutes away from where Legoland is, and I haven't heard that name in legit like 10 years. Like that's pretty much.
I didn't know you were Dutch.
No, I'm talking about the Lego. Never mind, you ruined the joke. And then also joining us here, I guess what our third cup of word Ryan of the night is our good buddy C.S. Johnson. How you doing today, CJ?
Hi everybody.
Hi. How are you feeling?
Better. So.
Yay.
Yeah, she's in cup number 3 of red wine. She's doing great.
Yeah. No, I switched to water. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we don't need any more people with kidney stones on this show, so it's probably a good idea at this point.
Oh God.
We got some people in the chat because I mean, people actually come here to listen to us talk for a week on end. I don't know why, but they're here. Our very good buddy Neil Zoic is here joining us saying, fun question, which movie would you rather watch, Amityville Horror or The Poltergeist? I would actually go with Amityville. I'm a rare Amityville fan. I would take that one over Poltergeist, even though I know Poltergeist is a little bit more iconic than that film. But yeah, that's my personal take. Rob, what's your take?
Unfortunately, I'm not a fan of either, but I guess I'd go with Poltergeist because of the special effects. But yeah, I thought Amityville was especially terrible when I saw it. But
I love it. I love how terrible it is.
There you go.
I mean, if you think Amityville is terrible, have you happened to have seen Amityville: The Possession? It is so terrible. It is absolutely
There's an Amityville
fantastic.
verse.
It is amazing. It's so bad out of nowhere how the house just explodes and you're just like, wait, how did that happen? And you just go with it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yep.
Have any of you ever been out to Amityville, Long Island? Have you seen? I used to work out there, deliver furniture and another life and stuff like that. And all the houses out there look like that. So, you go out there and you're just like, oh my God, this is Satan's land. It's just, it feels terrible, so
burn everything to the ground.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Like, I got to get out of here. So I would probably go with Poltergeist because at least that's a movie to me. Amityville was just way too real to me. So, yeah.
What about you,
I'd probably pick Amityville because I haven't seen either, but I kind of get the idea of a haunted house. So.
Poltergeist.
Really?
I've had paranormal
Yeah,
experiences, so I can relate to that a little bit more.
The only way I knew about the Amityville thing was because of Foamy the Squirrel from Newgrounds and his Amityville toaster that he had. That he it made like haunted toast. It's the only
Did
reason
they
why
do
I
a
know
remake
about
of?
Amityville.
They did a remake
Yes.
where Paris Hilton dies or something.
No, Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is in the remake of Amityville. Paris Hilton's in
okay.
House of Wax remake. which-
Okay, that's the one.
First of all, I'm not gonna let you guys just move past Cider's deep baked Newgrounds reference, pulling something straight out of like 2001. That was apparently some of you guys are old enough to remember that one, but yeah, that was basically YouTube before YouTube for middle schoolers. So there you go.
Foamy the Squirrel and his hot goth girlfriend.
There's a lot of let's just say scandalous things from Newgrounds, which we won't bring up here on this show. But bonus question: which alien do you think is scarier? Do you like the xenomorph from Aliens, or do you guys like essentially the Predator? Like, which one would you rather go with? I think the Predator is far more scary because I mean it has like weapons and stuff. I mean the alien's just a giant monster with acid blood.
I mean, I always like the metaphor of like alien being, this sort of evolved being that could even destroy human beings. With human beings responsible for so much, like terrible shit and destruction. You have this like super being that's basically created to annihilate you. And plus they have acid for blood. That seems pretty terrifying. And plus they like impregnate you. And shit pops out your fucking, you know what I mean?
Stomach.
The whole thing is fucking, it's biological fucking terror. So
Yeah, but I mean, the Predator can like skin you alive and hang you from a tree, though. So I mean,
Sure.
yeah, that's pretty scary too.
He's basically a metaphor for
Probably
Native
dead
American, by the way.
Before you see it.
The thing with the Predator, if it bleeds, you can kill it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Except for
the alien, it's gonna, like you said, the acid's gonna get you no matter what. So I think I would take my chances with the Predator.
Unless you're in a power loader.
I mean, look, if Danny Glover can beat the Predator, then I mean, that's not a great.
I don't know, man. Like, see, I have a problem because those lady predators, I'm like, would.
That's your type.
Dude,
Yeah, it
read
is.
the
That's my
books.
type.
Read
Lady
the
predator,
books.
definitely. Yeah.
Spider, if you like female
There's just something
predators,
about that split face thing. I'm like, yeah, I want to know what that does.
dude, read the books because
See, I'm
one
the
of them talks
Captain
about a
Kirk
mating
guy.
system.
I'm the Captain Kirk guy. Like, I'll begin the relations. Don't worry.
They will throw you across
Hey, yo,
the
what
room.
the fuck?
I'm just saying, when they had that AVP movie and they showed the female predators, I was like, "There's what now?"
You know, your
together.
stream was
Like, he
demonetized
just-
as soon as Rob started talking about how the refs were being unfair. So you're fine.
Yeah, no. The second we mentioned Taylor Swift, it was all downhill from there. So I'm not even worried about that anymore. But.
Damn.
Also, we got Vanya joining us in the chat. Doafet, who's joining us here tonight. Drax the Clown, Alex versus Evil, also joining us tonight. Are you giving us a third bonus question on like already? Like we haven't gotten to the introduction yet. It said it was going to be scarier xenomorph alien, but the Thing from John Carpenter's movie. I would say the Thing. I mean, the Thing for a movie that came out in '82, the practical effects used in that movie like still hold up to this day. Like that still freaks you the hell out. So
Even in 4K, you can't tell anything.
yeah, so
It is absolutely astounding.
The pile
I
of
haven't seen
dog
it, so I'm still going
traumatized
with the
me.
Yacha.
Remember the pile of dog?
Yeah.
You remember the pile of dog? Yeah, that
I hate that
traumatized me. Yeah, that's
I
burned into
fucking
my
hate
head.
That scene, it's so fucked up.
Ugh.
You just need to watch Barbarella a few more times, and that'll help get it loose.
It's true. I found my collector's edition the other day. I'm happy.
The Jane Fonda movie.
That was a hell of a
Yeah.
movie, boy. Oof.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my favorite movie.
Yeah.
It's so awful. I love it.
Not the Pam Anderson one, but the Jane Fonda.
No, that's Stripperella.
Right.
Awesome
You see that
one.
picture of Pam Anderson that's out there right now.
Yeah.
She was on the red carpet without her makeup. I mean, I'm not trying to
Zombie,
shame the
damn
woman, but my God, whew.
It's
Talk
okay.
about hitting
That's
the
what
wall,
happens
baby.
when you wear
We
too
all
much all the
appreciate it.
time.
I mean, putting chemicals on your face for 40 years has detrimental effects when you hit your 50s. Is all I gotta say.
I mean, to be fair, 40 years has detrimental effect on your face.
yeah, that too.
Just that alone.
Now we know why she tried to Me Too Tim Allen.
Yeah. But I mean, have you guys seen Carmen Electra? I mean, she like doesn't even have like the same face anymore. She's had so much plastic surgery. It's
You know what the bitch of it all is?
Hmm.
Elvira, the lesbian, almost totally untouched by time.
For the most
So-
part,
Yeah,
What a
just because
bitch,
she's
right?
old doesn't mean you gotta look
Makeup.
like that.
That's
You know,
called
people are saying,
makeup,
"Well,
dude.
she's old, man." That's more than age. Jesus, man.
It's witchcraft.
What's her name? Selma Hayek. How old is she?
like 56.
She's up there.
now? Yeah.
50.
Yeah, she still get it.
Well, I'll leave that joke for.
Well, I know. I know.
I mean, 69 is next week, so let's save those jokes for next week's show. So, JAC is also joining us here tonight. Awesome One's also joining us here. Tactus Jones, as you guys see, is in the chat with us tonight as well. Our good buddy Kate is also here to say talking about the Xenomorph. So yeah, definitely don't want one of those snatching you up. Duke Nukem is also joining us here tonight on the show. And I think we got a few other people. Oh yeah, I mean this guy's here, but I mean, do we really need to give him any play? I mean, he's just here. We don't need to talk about him.
I will say I would have picked the Xenomorph because all you need to give her, you just need to give her some chocolate, right, and that'll calm her down some. You can tame the beast. So,
and I gotta be honest, like if we're talking about like Pam Anderson and then like Tommy Lee, as much as it pains me to say it, Tommy Lee is held up a lot better than Pam Anderson is, and Tommy Lee is an absolute mess of a human being. So it's just like that way. And then now we're back to showing cats on screen again.
He's awesome in those Japanese Iron Boss, Boss Coffee commercials.
Just showing off.
Love it.
this is Jasper. I'm downstairs today, so this is my dining room.
Yeah.
Forget the
Thanks for the
dining
update
room. We
on
want the
geography.
cat.
Yeah, I know you want the cat. You're famous.
Beautiful.
Was he gonna freak out if he sees himself on screen?
Nah,
he's gone. He probably got knocked out of the camera.
Cats are chill, man. Cats are
Some
very
of them,
chill.
some of them are chill. Not
Some of
all
them, yes.
Yeah.
Others are psychotically homicidal.
You bring
All
up
right.
Tommy Lee,
Just like
Jones,
people.
right? You know that he
Speaking
did like a
of
series.
that, right?
He did a series of Boss Coffee commercials in Japan.
No.
At some point when he was in the military, he was based in Japan, so he learned Japanese while he was there, and he ended up taking acting things before he left, and then returned later on as a Hollywood superstar. He's one of the first ones to start. He's the reason why Arnold did all those noodle commercials and the energy drink commercials, because Tommy Lee Jones started that. And so, like, there's all these commercials for Boss Coffee where Tommy Lee Jones is just playing like this emotionless kind of Vulcan alien guy with super strength, going around Japan trying to blend in. It's like this 6'5" American old man like selling noodles in Japan.
There was a very brief period of time where like the agents used to like tell like the celebrities like, oh no, go do a commercial overseas. No one here in the United States is ever going to see this, and people actually like did it, and then all of a sudden here comes YouTube, and all those commercials you thought that were never going to be seen in this side of the world are now living forever. So
Sylvester Stallone did a bunch of like they're like Bush steak commercials. I don't know what they are, but like some packaged meat commercials. They're so awkward because he doesn't know Japanese. Then he did like this. There was some racing one that he did, and then Bruce bald deaf
Willis. Willis.
Yeah,
Willis. Bruce Willis. He did these weird car commercials where he learned Japanese, but he like sped through it, so he just sounds angry all the time.
Well, I mean, Japanese is a language where if you like hear people speak it, they just sound angry for like no reason. It's like almost like they're yelling at you. It's Japanese too. I mean, they're all on the same side of World War II. It just never moved away from it. So
okay,
there we go.
Have you ever seen the Korean Kentucky Fried Chicken RoboCop commercial?
Sadly, yes.
Wow,
The one that Peter Weller actually did.
Really?
Yeah. Comes out of TV, tries walking off with the fridge.
Yeah, and you know what's depressing? Like Peter Weller was, before he did that commercial, he was like, well, I would never do anything ridiculous to compromise the integrity of RoboCop as a character. Then he goes and does that. It's like, you asshole.
And then they did the American Kentucky Fried Chickens where he's dressed up like Colonel Sanders.
Well, maybe he would never do that, but I'm sure his agent didn't mind signing him up for it. So.
Yeah, it's
You know
like,
what we're doing?
When you
you're
have
funny. You're
bills.
not going to do that?
You know
Don't
what we're
do
doing?
it.
We're talking about more fun stuff than the topics that are coming up here,
Yeah.
especially Taylor
Yeah.
Swift. That's the
We
problem.
gotta lure people
Ugh,
in.
for
front
Talking
loading.
about those.
Well, I mean, since Cider asked, let's go ahead and start off hot with Taylor Swift, who has absolutely ruined football in less than 2 weeks. Taylor Swift has been the primary focus of just about every NFL show for the last 2 weeks now. As we said, that she's now dating Travis Kelce. Well, I mean, dating. I still think this whole thing is fake, but she's dating Travis Kelce for the Kansas City Chiefs. So last week they was all like, "Oh my God, Taylor Swift is at the Chiefs game," and it's like, "Oh my God, she's at the Chiefs game again." And I'm not sure if anyone actually saw last Sunday night's game between the Chiefs and the Jets. It was absolutely insufferable the amount of promotion they gave Taylor Swift throughout the entire broadcast. It was like they like they said, first two commercials on each commercial break was all about her upcoming movie that's coming out, their concert movie that's coming out in theaters, and everything's about, oh, here's Taylor Swift reacting to this first down, and oh, here's Taylor Swift reacting to a fumble, and oh, here's Taylor Swift reacting to a safety, and people just got absolutely sick to death of it, like immediately. And even the NFL even went as far to replace their official Twitter banner to Taylor Swift, and they got so much heat for it in 24 hours they were forced to turn it back. Like, people are already done with this whole Taylor Swift thing, but yeah, a lot of people are just sick to death about this whole situation. They got a lot of pushback over the Instagram bio, saying that the Chiefs were 2-0 with Swift at the games and everything going on with Twitter. It's like, look, I watch football for football. I do not watch it for an overrated, over the hill, and hit the wall pop star. So stop telling me about Taylor Swift. I don't care about Taylor Swift. This is people in like the thousands to the millions that were saying this. This is obviously a short little clip from the game. All her little celebrity girl pal friends, including Sophie Turner, who we've been saying not so very fond things about over the last couple of weeks, were all there.
Is that the drunk broad?
Yes, the drunk broad who's currently being divorced by a Jonas brother. And then this is Taylor with Blake Lively, who I believe is Ryan Reynolds' wife. And like I said, everything, it was just Taylor mania on Sunday night, and people were just had enough of it. Travis Kelce has also gotten a lot of heat here as well, because like I said before, his whole relationship went official. He did a commercial for Bud Light, and obviously Bud Light is not a very favorite brand at the moment. And he also did a commercial for Pfizer, which we'll get to here in a second too.
Go back up to that, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just hear this in Aku's voice from Samurai Jack. Foolish Benjamin, stand forth to oppose me, wielding a shot from Pfizer.
Yep. It sounds like something like Super Sentai, like in the 90s.
Right? A foolish Benjamin. Sorry, it just turned out.
No, I can hear it now too. Yeah. I can't really play it now. Oh my God, here we go. This is gonna be great. Of course, we got Kanye. Well, I mean, if you remember the history between Kanye and Taylor Swift. And,
right.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Like Kanye was right.
Yep. So here's another good meme here.
And yeah, she's here. Taylor
Is she the Antichrist? Is that what's happening?
Oh my God!
No, she's just a modern day Yoko Ono. So
yeah,
trying to get Kelsey out of this contract.
As I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Taylor Swift is basically like the white girl version of Beyonce. Of how Beyonce is like worshipped by black women, and Taylor Swift's pretty much the same thing to like black women at this point. But we talked about last week how people are now trying to use Taylor's influence to sway some political opinions in the NFL. And Gavin Newsom, who a lot of people believe could possibly replace Biden in the upcoming election for the Democrats, is now talking about the possibility of using Taylor Swift's influence in the upcoming election, saying that she'll have a profound, really powerful voice in the next election here. So Gavin Newsom, who's currently running California into the ground, even though it's not really all his fault. I mean, California's been being run to the ground for like 30 years, but he has not helped the issue whatsoever. He thinks that Taylor Swift will be a major influence in the upcoming election, that Taylor Swift stands tall and unique. He told TMZ, I said, what she was able to accomplish by getting young people activated to consider that they have a voice, that they should have a voice in the next election. I think that's profoundly powerful. This is all going back to 4 years ago when Taylor Swift finally came out as a card-carrying young liberal, and she tried to rally people to overturn the Tennessee election, which she failed utterly at, by the way. And even her home state of Tennessee supported Trump by a big time numbers. I think it was like 62%. But apparently they think that she has influence in other parts of the country, like New York and California, where all of Taylor's little friends are here. But they're definitely going to try to use her to sway for the Democrats here. Now, we don't know if Newsom will in fact be that Democrat in 2024, or if the Democrats are going to somehow keep Biden around for another 4 years, which I don't even know if Biden is going to be alive in another 4 years, but that's a conversation for a different day. In Minecraft, I mean, let's be honest. He's like 82 years old. He's
be
probably
alive.
gonna die. Yeah, he's probably gonna die.
Can he think? Can he talk? Can he function?
Well,
can he hold his urine?
Well, apparently he's already utterly failed at all of those things. But
he'll be alive. I mean, look at Jimmy Carter. He's been like, I don't know what the hell. He was on Death Watch something like a year ago, right?
He's supposed to be in hospital for like a few months. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been under it for a while. But so, yeah, I mean, there's calls here to have Taylor Swift be a powerful tool for the Democrats in 2024. Obviously, the NFL is trying to squeeze every bit of publicity they can out of this whole thing. All I would have to say is please don't show up for the next Chiefs game, which I think they're in Minnesota this week, because I think 3 weeks in a row of this is going to break some people. So, yeah, please don't, as I would say. But, Rob, you're an NFL fan. You're one of the few people who still loves this league. I'm going to go ahead and start this one off of you. What is your thoughts on Taylor Swift's takeover in the NFL and her prospects of 2024?
Yeah, I just have to ignore this shit to enjoy the NFL right now. I know it's bullshit. I know it's trumped up fake celebrity hysteria. I know it's a big distraction. I get it, but I'm really fucking annoyed with it, and I'm actively avoiding it, and I'm still fucking annoyed with it. How much it gets brought up over the course of a game, how much social media has promoted it. The NFL is alienating its fan base now. It's taking a page out of Disney's book, which is nobody should want to do. And oh yeah, by the way, they're a partner with Disney because of Monday Night Football, and just the association with NFL films. And so, that doesn't surprise me, but please cut the shit with Taylor Swift. We don't care. Like, if she wants to date Travis Kelce, great. I don't really buy it. I mean, I don't see that, but who cares? Who cares what I say? Who cares what any of us fucking have to just get back to playing football, please. I do not give a shit. I've always found Taylor Swift to be inauthentic and annoying. Her as a product is just something that is incredibly transparent. And she's a pop star. I don't know how you find any kind of meaning in, following the sort of day-to-day of what a fucking pop star does. I suppose it's, we've never had royalty, and celebrity has sort of been a substitute for that. And that's what a lot of the magazines talk about. It's celebrity gossip, but you're starting to you're starting to alienate the most popular sport in America from its fan base. It's wildly popular. They had great ratings, but by the way, the ratings for the Chiefs-Jets game, which was a primetime game, was lower than the Chiefs-Bears game, which was not, and was a blowout. That should tell you something. That should tell you that less people were inclined to watch. A, probably because Aaron Rodgers wasn't there, and B, because hysteria. So it's again, the ratings are doing well overall, but there's a game-to-game trajectory you can look at to say, okay, people are starting to get annoyed with the stupid fucking celebrity gossip being associated with an NFL game.
So hardcore Taylor Swift fan Spencer here is saying that, when are we actually going to stop watching football? Because apparently we say this too much, which is kind of ironic because Spencer is a Bears fan, and now Taylor Swift knows just how much the Bears fucking suck. So I'm going to toss this one over to Cassie here, being the Jets fan, who also had to figure out how much her team sucks this week, even though they had a better game than normal. Let's just give them a little bit of credit here. But let me ask you this. What is the aspects of Taylor Swift taking over the sport of football making you more likely to watch a future game or less likely to watch a future game as a long-suffering New York Jets fan?
So I'm very proud to admit that I do not pay to watch, NFL football. I go to places that happen to, have these sorts of things, so they don't get a dime off of me to begin with. But the shame is that I had to watch most of the game muted because I was tired of, after every play, getting the reaction from Taylor Swift, if it be like the announcers or then cutting to her. So at least I got to get rid of like half of the annoyance to it. I definitely don't really, I hate celebrities. I think the mass majority of them are either kid diddlers or no kid diddlers. So I really just don't want to know about them. For me, the celebrities that I endorse are usually dead, and that's normally for good reason. So
You big Bob Barker fan, is that what it is?
now I'm now officially can say I'm a fan of Bob Barker after his unfortunate passing. But yeah, other than that, I think most modern celebrities are absolutely obnoxious, have nothing to add to the table, and really just get in the way of what people go to the NFL to see. They want to see football. They don't want to hear about Taylor Swift's. It's hear about and see Taylor Swift's reaction after every play. It's just obnoxious. I mean, if it would be one thing if it was like one time throughout the game, but it's like every other play. It's like it's very, very ridiculous. It's boring. I'm bored.
And I just
watch my
want to say something real quick to Spencer in the chat, because he's talking about all the instances where the NFL has alienated its fan base or whatever. Personally, I've never been one of those people. I watch it regardless of whatever you want to call it, virtue signaling to certain groups or political causes. I find it annoying, and like I don't like it, and I'll criticize the NFL for it, but I also love what the league is. So it's like I think you can love something and still criticize it. But I've never been like, I'm not watching anymore. I've never been one of those people. And then I still watch on Sunday. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
the NFL is proof that Rob can commit to something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I stopped watching the NFL for years. This is the first time that I've attempted to commit to watching the NFL. And it's gone absolutely dreadful. I should have continued to stay away. But yeah, I haven't watched the NFL in like 4+ years. So.
Yeah. And a couple things. One, Spencer, you have the link. You can come in here if you want to argue this point. And then two, this is one thing that's been I guess you could say consistent argument about all these distractions away from the game is that when you pick the focus on things that are not football, like we talk about the whole Colin Kaepernick thing and the kneeling in the national anthem, how that had nothing to do with the game itself, and that alienated a lot of people. Then we've also had a series of other issues on and off the field with the NFL specifically over the last few years. I know there was a big thing with Brady. Well, it was right before he had went to Tampa Bay. I have to remember the guy's name, of course. That was like a big scandal involving him, and a big scandal involving a few other people as well. But yeah, this whole idea that, like I said, we're putting the focus on a pop star when people are trying to watch a football game. Do you not understand how that upsets people who are just trying to watch the Chiefs and the Jets, and they're getting 24/7 Taylor Swift coverage as if they actually cared about Taylor Swift? What they're trying to do is that they're trying to essentially use the popularity of an already established fan base in the NFL to promote something that is not the game itself. And people have already made it very clear over the course of the last few years that people do not want that. They just want the game. Me and Rob have said many times on here talking about our past experience with sports that whenever any sports, not just football, but with basketball, with baseball and other sports, whenever you distract away from the game itself and you make the story away from the game, people tend to get pretty upset. We talked about this with Major League Baseball and the whole thing about the All-Star game that got moved out of Atlanta a few years ago. That alienated people. Basketball has had numerous issues over the last several years that have alienated people away from the game. LeBron James, Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, the whole Black Lives Matter deal has moved people away from basketball. Their ratings are still suffering as a result. I mean, hockey, they don't have that big of a fan base to begin with, but the whole thing with the LGBTQ pride nights that they've been arguing about over the last few years has definitely not helped matters. So we're starting to see a consistent problem here with people just want to watch sports sports for the sports. They want to watch the games for the games. It's like it's a marquee matchup. They just want to watch football for 3 hours and be done with it. When you give them something that is not that, they are going to push back because you're not giving them what they want. It's very, very simple. Mark with a C, as someone who's kind of an outsider here, maybe a normie on this whole situation, what's kind of your thoughts on, I guess, just how you generally feel about football, like in general, if you have like a big following for football, and how Taylor Swift kind of plays into this whole thing at the moment?
I do wonder, like, who was on their knees more, Kaepernick or Taylor Swift at this point? You know what I'm saying?
Well, Kaepernick was trying to get hired to the Jets again, so yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I don't really have a passion, you know, for football. I'm kind of learning it because, you know, the kid plays and he's very passionate about it. So, you know, I'm learning it through him, you know. But I imagine that if I were passionate about this, it probably would drive me crazy to see a pop star getting all of this, you know, free publicity and, you know, everybody fixating on her. Like, what's she got to do with this? Nothing, you know? So that to me is offensive, just the idea of it, you know, because we're seeing this all across the board. It's not even like this is just happening in football. We're seeing it everywhere. I think they put Nicki Minaj in Call of Duty or some crap like that. It's like, why? You know what I mean? Now, Call of Duty is something I'm passionate about. I don't want to see that, you know? So this is pretty much that same thing. Like, why? Why are they doing this? Nobody wants to see it, but I don't think it's going to stop people from paying for this, because everyone said the same thing about Kaepernick. They were done with it and everything, and boycotts and stuff, but I see full stadiums. They didn't lose anything, you know, but I mean, yeah, I could see where it would be aggravating. Absolutely.
And what's weird is if you've watched baseball games, basketball games where they do the court side, they show like famous people who are in the audience. They do a 5-second mention of it and they go right back to the game. And so it's just, that's all you should, like, if you want to do that, that's fine. But like, what do you do? Why do you keep, I mean, Richard Dreyfuss's son on Twitter the other day, Ben Dreyfuss, was just like, when did Taylor Swift go from a pop star to like a god among mortals? Like, why are we treating her like, you know what I mean? Like,
that was my experience with Beyonce. You know, Beyonce has got to be the most overrated fucking singer in the history of mankind, but everybody worships her, you know, and I see the same thing happening with Taylor Swift for some reason, but she's got a very dedicated fan base, but it's a very specific fan base. She's not universal. You know what I mean? She's just not. You know, I've heard people say she's this generation's Michael Jackson. How? You know what I mean? It's like she doesn't have that type of pull. She just doesn't. It's like the people who love her, they love her. But that's not like the whole freaking world and stuff. So I just don't get the fascination and, you know, why she's being injected into this way. But I don't know. There's a lot of things out there I'm not understanding these days.
Well, I got a couple of Taylor Swift fans in the bullpen right now, so let's go ahead and jump in, Rick and Spencer, onto the show here. So
I would just like to make a correction. Taylor Swift is her generation's Ella Fitzgerald. All right.
Nobody knows who that is anymore, Rick.
I know.
I do.
Don't help him, you.
Taylor Swift's best moments were when
she's not even this
dead on
generation's
CSI.
Madonna. I'm sorry.
Wow, what an edgy take, Orange. Dang. Don't cut yourself there.
Well, what's the brouhaha over Taylor Swift?
So, I mean, do we want to recap it for Rick, or do we just want to get into it?
No. I'm it's kind of a rhetorical question here, because what does she really have to do with football? So she's dating a football player whom I honestly have never heard of until now. And
are they dating, or is he really just banging her out?
I don't even know if this whole relationship's even real, to be honest with you. Everything about the scene.
Honestly, it's like, why is it even going this deep? She's getting dicked down by an NFL player. Okay, I don't give a fuck.
Pretty sure it's probably
That's all it is. That's all it is.
But I am.
It's like a power fantasy for some men, though. You know, they just want all these famous ladies to want them.
They don't. I don't want her.
Lesbian. You're not famous.
I don't want her. I just don't understand why people care so much. this person, I've not
I know
heard
why,
of him,
and I'll
so
explain.
I have I've looked, I've learned a little bit. So he has a podcast, and he seems to have a very ebullient personality, because I was watching a little bit of the pre-show, the pre-game show. But really, there's nothing special about this particular player, as far as I know. He's not, I don't believe he's going to be like a legend in the gridiron, as far as I know. As far as I know, but you can't go by me,
No,
because
he's,
I thought
he's definitely a skilled player.
I thought I did think that Walter Payton was that I thought that Peyton Manning was Walter Payton's son. So you can't go by me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's not how names work.
Yes.
So, Spencer, what is your argument here for, I guess, defending Taylor Swift in this instance?
So this isn't just defending Taylor Swift. Let me explain before anybody interjects, because there's a lot I need to address here. So the first thing is, one, I totally understand the annoyance some people might get at seeing a bunch of Taylor Swift. I get that. Don't get me wrong. Like when Rob said, I get annoyed, but I heard Rob's, issue, and it makes sense to me. But where I get really annoyed with a lot of people who espouse these opinions, like you were at the very beginning of, the league is dead. Why is anybody watching this? Oh my gosh, it's all over. You guys keep watching.
Did I say that?
You did. You say it all the time. You say the league's dead. Why are we still here? Who's going to watch this anymore? And it's like, well, you are. So if you keep watching every week, nothing's going to change. But to that end, you're right. All these leagues have lost a lot of fans. But that's why they're, highlighting Taylor Swift. Because as much as you guys might not like her, a lot of younger people, especially like college age kids and younger, they all love her, male and female. So whatever eyes they can get on here, get that new generation in. If you guys have said, I'm done with this league, they don't care about us anymore, I don't really understand the issue.
Okay, so which team I said I was a fan of, right?
Gosh, it's not the Chargers anymore. Not anymore. I don't remember. Like Browns, maybe, just for the trolling.
No, obviously I was talking about the Raiders here. I haven't really gone on too much about them over the last few weeks, right?
Sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
I haven't gone on about them in the last few weeks, right?
Yeah.
Because I haven't really cared that much about, that too, but I haven't really cared too much about the league in general. Now, this is not just Taylor Swift centric, because this whole story with Taylor Swift's only been going on the last couple of weeks. I generally have just become detached with football in general, along with a lot of other professional sports. We sit here, we watch like the Tom Grossi videos, but for me actually committing my Sundays to watch football, I haven't watched it in quite some time. There's a multitude of reasons for that.
But then that I don't know. See, then that to me is like, why do you care so much? Like, I get Rob's argument. He watches. He never complained. He's like, I've always wanted to watch this still, so this annoys me.
It's not particularly why I care so much.
Well, it is. Well, it's people who also espouse this argument. Like, people who espouse this argument are all going on about, I'm done. I don't want to watch football anymore. I'm so detached from the league. I don't care. And yet, we know, events, stats. You bring it up on all your shows all the time. You're still giving it attention. And it's like, okay, well then, you can either give it attention and just accept things that are annoying like Rob does, or you can stop paying attention to it. And I would actually believe your guys' arguments.
Answer this question.
But you know what I mean? That's why if I
Rob.
It's fake and gay. That's probably why Jacob is just like, the whole Taylor Swift Travis Kelce thing just seems.
It's not about that being inherently annoying. Because I get it. Yeah. It is inherently annoying to some people. Like even me as a fan, I'm like, okay, enough switching to her, go down to Pam on the field, let me know what's going on, right? It's the fact that this is the latest in a long line of battlegrounds for quote unquote unwoke sports fans who constantly say, I'm done here. Why would I they don't appeal to me. I'm out of here. Grah, grah, grah. And then
but this is not just unwoke spokes fans. There's been a lot of people who are enough with the Taylor Swift shit. We don't care.
I understand that, but that's not what I'm talking about. That is not I'm talking about the fans. Hold on, Cass. I'm talking about the fans like you who for all these issues have been, I'm done here. Why would I care anymore? They hate us. This is demonic. I'm out of here. And yet you still keep showing up. So to me, you don't really have a leg to stand on.
Okay, I didn't watch either of the games. I heard the reaction on Twitter, and that's why we did.
You're still engaging with it. You're the one.
Yeah, because I host a show which talks about these issues. So unless you just want me to be like, okay, we're not going to cover anything NFL related ever again because I'm done with the NFL and no one's ever going to talk about it. There's still issues we talk about.
I take pride in
You
spitefully
can talk-
watching this shit online and not giving them a fucking dime. And I
You
do
can
this. I
talk-
put the same shit on for my pop, so
You
he
can
doesn't
talk about
contribute
the-
a
you can
dime.
talk about
and
the
and I
issues.
love it.
All right,
And-
Cass. Yeah, we get it. Okay, hold on. I understand you're doing like a fun breakdown right now, but like, Jacob, it's not about like this specific issue. It's about the people who say constantly, "I'm out, I'm done." And like, yes, I understand you you run a show that talks about issues, but when you're opening the show with, "Why is anybody watching? Why should we care?" and you still keep engaging with it and giving it promotion, I don't know. It's
There's
just so
plenty of topics that we're going to be talking about tonight that I don't typically engage in, but we're doing it because we're doing a show talking about the biggest topics of the week. Like, we're going to talk about Britney Spears here in a while. I typically don't care about Britney Spears, and I haven't talked about her for a reason, but the fact that she's now going absolutely nuts on Twitter after a whole course of people, I saw that, Rob. After a whole course of people.
And look, man,
Oh,
I love
nice.
to mock and shame while contributing no money to these mega ultra corporations. So that's
I'll let Orange finish first because he's been trying to get a point in for a while.
The reason why we, some of us choose to, because I haven't watched a football game since fucking early 2000s.
Okay, then you're not
so
who I'm
I don't
talking
give a flying fuck.
You're
But
not who
just
I'm
listen.
talking to, Orange.
I know, but the reason why some people decide to engage with it, even though they don't watch it, is because there is a culture war going on. And yes, the corporations aren't going to listen to us, but by speaking about it, we allow other people to have a little bit of insight on our own viewpoints. Not only that, the numbers are growing and waking up to this bullshit. So, yes, the corporations aren't listening to us, but we have made a difference. I may not
Not my
watch
point at
the
all.
NFL,
You're not talking.
but
You're
I
not
do
addressing
know
my
that in
point at all, dude.
2018
And here's another thing. I'll make it even
Hold on.
simpler than
Talk
that.
about what I'm saying.
Hold on. I will get to your point. In 2018, the NFL lost revenue. 8% of their total revenue. They lost that because of people like us who've been speaking
Okay,
about
I
it.
understand that history.
Even
What
though
does
we
it have
don't
to do with
watch
my
it.
current point? I know why people have stopped watching. I addressed that, Orange.
Your current point
Okay,
is
so I'll make
we're
it even
not going
simpler than
for-
that. I'll make it even simpler than that. The reason why we're talking about this story is because I know people on this podcast who actually are NFL fans, and I want to get their reaction to this story.
Okay.
I know Rob is an NFL fan. Hold on. I know Cassie is an NFL fan. We brought Nerdigans out from her hole last week to talk about this story because I know this is the one thing that she can actually get out of bed to talk about. So it's not just the fact that, like my personal feelings about this and why I put this on the show. I actually want to bring the show up, bring this topic up here so that other people can talk about it here as well.
That's completely fair. My entire point ever since the show started was, if you're going to be one of those people who goes, the NFL is dead, I don't watch anymore, blah, 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 you should commit to that instead of caring.
Have I
if
not
Taylor Swift
committed
on
to it
TV.
outside of just talking about it on this show?
I don't know.
It could
I
also
don't know.
be the fact that we
I don't
want
know
it
what you
to-
do in your
or
spare
we
time.
want
I
it
don't
to
know
be
what
good
NFL
again.
accounts you're following. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know how far you engage.
Someone who,
But I do know that
Maybe
you are
we
such a
want the
big
NFL to
critic
be
of
good
their
again
culture
and
war
worth
stuff
watching.
that it surprises me every time you're willingly engaging back with them.
as someone who does not follow football at all, that would be myself, do think there is an oversaturation of one particular person who is not in any way, shape, or form actually involved with the game of football, other than that she's involved herself with a player who, for me, is surprisingly obscure. I don't know this person is, and I don't understand why. Why the networks seem to think that she is that important as they have to put her on the banner, focus on her every time there is any kind of play on the field, because she should not be the central focus. She should not even be a focus of the game. She shouldn't be. As for the idea that she would bring in viewers, I reject that idea. The same reason that I reject the idea that J.K. Rowling inspired a whole generation to love reading. No, she inspired a whole generation to love reading more Harry Potter and Harry Potter style books, not necessarily to see reading increase. She was given wrong credit for bringing kids to read. In the same way, Taylor Swift is being given wrong credit for increasing viewership. No one's going to watch a game just to see her reaction, and they shouldn't. The focus should be on the game, not on the goings on of this bad actress Tart, whose best performance was getting pushed in front of a moving car.
That's right.
I'm gonna let Cider catch this one.
Not even what I'm talking about.
Cider wanted to jump in.
I'm not done with the meme, so go ahead.
No,
whatever
God,
you got. I got a meme.
All right, so to get to the point that he was making, maybe the people who are talking about it want it to become worth watching again. Maybe the reason why they're complaining so much is because
if you want it to become worth watching again, you can't be one of those people who spent the last couple of years going, "This is awful. They hate us. Don't ever engage with it again." Like, it's such conflicting thing. If you're like Rob is
who
one
here is saying that?
That's
okay, not specifically here, but I know that there are people who say that, and I'm also kind of going off of a lot of.
Okay, then, but you're literally discrediting everyone's argument.
No, I'm not.
Meanwhile, nobody has this argument that you're claiming that you're bringing here.
Here's the argument. If Jacob is sitting here pretty much every week yelling that things are demonic, that they're evil, I don't see that as somebody going, "I want to save this." That's somebody going, "Get rid, like I'm done with this. I'm gone." So if somebody,
no one's even saying that. We're just saying that nobody.
And I haven't even made that argument specifically. And I haven't even made that argument specifically about the NFL. We've talked about that with other instances in entertainment, but not
about the NFL. You may not have dedicated time on shows to it, but in our discussions, whether it's on Bounding or behind the scenes, you've called the NFL.
Okay,
demonic.
but you don't want to have a nuanced conversation about this, Spencer, because you've literally went and discredited everyone here, like their issues with this.
No, I did
because
not.
You said, "Oh, it doesn't pertain to your conversation," and it's like what you're bringing up doesn't even pertain to what anyone else agrees.
Absolutely, because my point here, my issue is not with people's annoyance with Taylor Swift. With what Rick is saying, that's not what I'm talking about. And Orange is talking about why people have left and stopped watching the NFL.
But what you're
the topic.
Talking about either.
Just real quick, the topic of this segment is people voicing their annoyances about Taylor Swift in the NFL. So if you're saying that you're not talking about that, then what exactly are you arguing here? Because that's the center of this conversation for the segment.
I will tell you. I will listen. I will lay it out because I've said it before, but I will try my best to make it as clear as possible. Because my issue here is not people being annoyed with Taylor Swift. I even said earlier in the show, I agree. I get annoyed with her too, even as a big fan of her, right? Like I've admitted that. My issue here is that for the umpteenth time, I'm hearing people go, "Ugh, why are we even here? What do we care? Like, this is so stupid." And to me, it's the same people who have said the same thing on all these other issues. So it's not specifically about Taylor Swift. It's about, do you have a commitment to your principles to just stop? And
okay, but like I said, for this segment,
hold on. Jacob said a good point. He changed my mind earlier on when he was like, "Okay, but the point is, I want other people on this panel to, talk about it." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, get that." My issue here is not with why do you not like Taylor Swift, like Rick was saying. My issue is not why did people stop watching the NFL, like Orange was saying. My issue is there's too many people who keep going back to the NFL, like Mark said at the very beginning, despite constantly saying, "I'm done here. I'm done." And to me, it's like, how are we supposed to take anything you say seriously? A hypothetical if somebody keeps going, "Yeah, blah, 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 I hate this, blah, 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 I'm coming back." It's like Star Wars fans. Like we treat them with the same disdain. It's maybe the mockery, but like, that's my point here. If you hate Taylor away. Who am I to tell you?
Like I said,
my question is, what line is there between proposing criticism and the stance of, well, I shouldn't watch it at all? Because where is the fine line because to everyone that's different.
That's part
true.
of his.
No, that's completely.
That seems to be part of Spencer's point. Is he's calling out the hypocrisy or the perceived hypocrisy.
That is what I'm trying to do.
I agree to that. I understand that sentiment as well. But there is, like I said, there is a line, and everyone has a different line of
absolutely
what is between criticism and what is
supporting
absolutely,
but
hate watching.
But that's why what my point here is that I can take criticism from people like you or Rob very seriously about this issue. If you're actually annoyed about Taylor, because you guys, and more Rob because you said you tuned out, but people with your guys' mentality, you still enjoy, like you want to enjoy it. You wish it was better, and you know, you keep tuning in. The other people who keep saying like the league is done, I hate it, it's racist, why are we engaging with it, don't support it, those are the ones I have an issue with, because they
Okay,
keep
Rob,
that out and
correct
they
me
keep
if I'm
coming back.
wrong. When we started this whole segment, I asked you first, what did you think about Taylor Swift's takeover of the NFL and her politics beforehand, right? That's kind of how we set up this entire conversation. So that was kind of the focal point of this whole segment here that we were doing, specifically about Taylor Swift, was NFL's fans' reaction to Taylor Swift being shoved down their throat. Am I wrong here?
No, you're not.
No, you're correct. Yeah, I mean, I understand what Spencer's talking about. There very much was a contingent on the right the last couple of years where people said, I'm going to boycott the NFL, and then they kept kind of watching. So I understand what he's talking about. I just don't think anybody here is guilty of that. You know what I mean? It's, you know, people have varying interest levels in the NFL, and I think that Taylor Swift on Sunday night detracted from actually a very good game. Like I was actually I was at work, but I was very like riveted watching that game, and Zach Wilson actually didn't fuck up till the very end, you know. So and he made a really good throw, and like, so the game was great without you having to like pan to Taylor Swift every 15 minutes or whatever. So I just think that, like, I love the NFL. I'll watch it regardless, but yes, I think it could be better without, you know, the inclusion of celebrities.
You know what I liken it to, if it helps to understand, what I liken it to is all of us have been in relationships and all of us have gotten out of relationships. It's very hard to just walk away from a relationship with somebody that you love. In much the same way, if you love a game, right? You've loved it your whole life. Everyone has got that line. All right. Everyone is not going to walk away from the game en masse. You know, it's one of those things where some people's lines, like you were talking about Star Wars, Spencer, there are some people who got out of Star Wars at The Force Awakens. There are some people that got out at The Last Jedi. You know, I was one of those that got out at The Last Jedi, but then people were saying, look at you, you're a sellout. How could you be watching The Last Jedi? The Force Awakens sucked. But my line was with The Last Jedi. You know, so I think that there's a lot of people who love this game and they don't want to abandon it. Like, you don't want to abandon a bad relationship, but there comes a time when you're just like, I'm out. And there's always going to be somebody that's like, well, I was out a long time ago.
Let me reflect that metaphor back to you, because I follow you completely and I don't disagree with it at all. I just want to build on it to sort of like show my point. If you had a buddy who broke up with somebody and started coming over to your house all the time going, man, she was a bitch. She was awful. I hated she did this. She didn't want to do that. And every time you talk about her, it's, she's the worst. I hope she, you know, has a bad life. But then every time she comes around, he wants to go and hang out with her still. Or he's, you know, always does everything he can to boost her up. Like that guy, as much as, you know, like, fine, I understand you have emotions, but there gets a point where you and all your buddies go, that dude's an idiot. That dude's a mark. What is he doing? Like, why do we take him seriously? Oh, you hate her today? Okay. Yeah, you're going to go over to her house late. Like, it's that kind of mentality. Oh, you think the NFL is awful and racist today? Well, you're going to be tuning in on Thursday. So why am I listening to you? Why should I take your complaint seriously?
I'm puzzled by the one aspect,
I understand that point,
Spencer,
too.
where you say that we've said that, or I mean, I didn't participate in the whole conversation, but the aspect that people are saying here that the NFL is racist, I don't know where that came in.
Oh,
that's based on arguments from like several years ago with the whole Colin Kaepernick situation.
And the Black National Anthem and all that stuff.
The thing is, they've, you know, the NFL seems like to me to be like at least getting away from the whole, you know, ultra political aspect that they went through. And it's one of those things where during that time, I was cold turkey. Like, it was dead to me. And it's like, now it's just like, okay, I feel like maybe they're making strides to at least have some fair ground. And it's like, no, we're just going to introduce this new aspect that is absolutely fucking obnoxious to the game.
Like, I can go, I want to go back to Mark's analogy, because that's perfect. Because it's like, you know, they did that ex did something, you hated him, Cass, and you're like, I'm done. But then they came and they're like, hey, look, I've changed. I've done something. So you're like, because you've changed, you've done, like, I will give you a chance. Oh, never mind. You just switched from politics to like pop celebrities.
But it's
all right. Well, hold on a second.
Like, you can make that comparison, but at the same time, you know, are you gonna if somebody if it's hard to relate this to people, because it's like, you know, it's a company. if the company just completely shits the bed and you walk away, it's fine. Now, if the company shows that, is going to show at least some goodwill here and be like, okay, like we acknowledge to some extent that the way we used to do things is wrong. So we have to definitely change our ways. At that point, it's like you can't treat a company like it is a relationship. It just doesn't equate. Like, at
What was
least
that
to me.
Taylor Swift song? We are never ever getting back together. Isn't that?
Which I believe was about Jake Gyllenhaal.
There you go.
Okay,
Right,
look,
exactly.
we got to get on to another topic here because I got other
got a
topics
name.
here that I didn't plan
Give
on
the
spending
name.
a whole hour on Taylor Swift. So, final thoughts on this one. Like I said, there's a lot of people who are
I
just
want the
done with
meme,
this whole
Jacob.
thing. What now?
I'm just
I have it ready, so don't.
Now have
the
the meme.
NFL gets no ratings
You
from
have the
me, and I'm
meme.
proud of that.
Oh God! Why are we doing this?
I made that. There you
And
go.
you know what? That would actually win. That would actually win.
I
I
told
thought you were like working on like AI video this whole time.
I thought you were making something to make fun of me and Jacob. This is not. This
I
is
mean,
not the number.
not for nothing.
did
America's
ask- I
such
did
a
ask
joke. This is
Spider-
probably
the actual
the group.
fuck.
This is what we deserve, as much of a joke as America seems to be in modern day. So, unfortunately,
I did
we're
ask
all-
Spider
leave me
to
alone,
do
okay?
the song, the breakup song. So
Oh,
I
that
think Spider
you want
could get
that?
you-
I'm not. You
get
really? Do you really want the Taylor Swift breakup song that
No.
ChatGPT wrote?
That's the only
Let's
reason I'm
not.
talking about.
Let's
Taylor
move
Swift.
on.
So-
What's next?
Let's move on from Taylor Swift, and let's make that a general
Yeah.
rule of life.
Exactly. Good point, Rob.
Oh my god, I don't care!
Let's move on to Ice Cube now, because this is one topic that actually brought Mark B on the show here for today. And we were talking about, you did a video earlier this week covering Ice Cube's comments from the week earlier regarding the whole, I guess you can call it the difference of the effect on gangster rap and the black community. And this has been an interesting back and forth on Twitter over the last couple of days. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up, I guess, what started this whole thing. Let me make sure I have the right template here. Here we go. Yeah, so this is Ice Cube's official comment. I guess he was answering a question about the root cause of, music, especially hip hop music and rap music in the black community over the last few decades. Ice Cube answered this one question here. He says that music has been influence, of course, but is it the cause of the black community's downfall overall? So he's basically asking here, I guess, questioning this guy if he believes that rap music is truly the reason for the black community's downfall. We'll get to that here in a second, but
Taylor
then,
Swift is the reason for the black community's downfall.
well, she hasn't dated any black guys yet, so we have to hold off on that until then. But then he got this counter argument here. He says, unfortunately, this is true for the black population as a collective, Ice Cube. To deny its impact, importance, and inciting violence against others and blacks is to blame others for their behavior, tactics, antics, tactics to sell records to gain popularity in the industry, business, and the world. So Ice Cube actually responded to this one by making this assumption here, which we'll play. He says the essence of rap is talking slick to a beat. That's the art of the form. He says that gangster rappers, drill rappers talk slip about gangster rapping facts. Some video games actually simulate being a game banger. You can play it for hours at a time. No one's talking shit about their influence on the black community. Next time you do something bad, just say gangster rap made you do it, problem solved. He actually has a song called Gangster Rap Made Him Do It here. So he's essentially trying to deflect from the initial premise here that hip hop and rap specifically, that the West Coast gangster rap that started in the late 80s, early 90s with like NWA. You can throw a few other guys in there like Ice-T if you want to as well. But the idea of the impact that this gangster rap had on the black community for a matter of decades, because here we are 30 years later and people are still trying to emulate what they've seen in the hip hop world from the past, whether it be guys like Snoop Dogg or Tupac. And it's always spread out to guys like, Biggie Smalls. And you can look at a number of rappers throughout that time period. But you have made a very interesting point about this, saying that Ice Cube was essentially trying to escape from his past sins of what the influence that NWA actually had on the black community during this time period. And I do want to go back to a point he made about video games as well, but I want you to start off this one, Mark. What do you think about Ice Cube's comments about hip hop's influence, especially NWA?
Yeah, I think he's doing a little tap dance there. Like I was saying in the video, I come from a perspective where that was my era of hip hop, and I remember being ground zero when NWA came out. At that time, hip hop, especially New York rap, which was the dominant rap at the time, was moving into more of a place of introspection. You have to keep in mind, what was it? We had, we were leading up to the Million Man March, which was a thing where it was about self-accountability. It wasn't about placing the blame somewhere else. So, hip hop at that time was Public Enemy. It was KRS-One, anyone who knows these artists from back in the day. And they had a self-destruction movement where they were talking about, hurting each other and taking better care of your neighborhoods and things like that. And then NWA dropped, straight out of Compton, crazy mother effing name Ice Cube from the gang called, with attitude, Yeah. So all of a sudden, everybody just wanted to be gangster. Everybody wanted to be hardcore criminals. Everyone wanted to be, the N-words and stuff like that. But it got to the point where up until that time, like I said, everyone was about being the best that they could be. Everyone was about not blaming, somebody else for your actions, fathers being in the home, things like that. You were getting more messages like that. So yes, when NWA dropped in gangster rap, it set that back 100%. I'm not saying that they invented it, because we know that's not true. Those things actually existed in the streets. Hip hop reflects the streets after all, but there's no getting around it. And to see that Ice Cube said that, I was like, listen, I have to spot like this, because like I said, that was my era. It's like, I remember that very clearly, how everything just changed after that. And we've not gotten it back since then. Hip hop has only gotten more ignorant as time has gone on. And you have these people who play into stereotypes. How can it be that you have Cardi B, Nicki Minaj getting on stage talking about WAP and all that stuff? You know what I mean? It's like you're playing into the stereotype when it used to be Queen Latifah, talking about ladies first. How can you ignore the influence that it took right around that time? Like, I don't know. You guys, this is a very diverse panel here. Tell me, is there any other music that's marketed to the youth that pushes a culture of self-harm and death and destruction and victimizing your fellow man as much as hip-hop does in the Black community? These kids don't stand a chance because they're told from day one that they ain't shit. You know what I mean?
I'll go even a little deeper than that, because there's an old biblical verse out there that talks about judging a tree by its fruit, and we talk about kind of hip hop and rap. And I like to kind of separate like those two, because I don't essentially think that hip hop and rap are articulate the same thing, but we're talking about in the subgenre of gangster rap specifically here. But when we look at what the rap game has become over the last 2 to 3 decades, can you think of any other music genre that has led to the early death of so many young artists other than rap in today's day and age? Think of how many rappers have been gunned down and killed over the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, going back to 30 years. And I know we just had a big arrest with Tupac, alleged killer. Maybe he was, maybe it wasn't. But
driver.
Yes, there's other people involved. I'll just put it that way. But the whole thing, why that was a big deal at the time, because during that time period, we didn't have a music atmosphere where people would literally have beef with each other and then people died. Like, we didn't have like that kind of atmosphere up until the late or mid 90s, when you had this big West Coast versus East Coast beef. And like I said, I'm born and raised in San Diego, California. Like, I know all about the West Coast hip hop scene. That's all we listened to growing up. We listened to Dre and Snoop and Exhibit and Ice Cube and Ice-T and all these guys who were big on the West Coast. Like, that was our whole scene. But growing up and really looking at what hip hop has become, I think it is more of a net negative on society, and you can see that within the industry itself. Like, we can obviously talk about the effect that it's had on like younger people, an entire generation who grow up idolizing this. Now you have so many of these rappers here who are, let's be honest, back in the day, you had people who pretended like they were in gangs but weren't really in gangs, right? They were just rapping about it. Now you have actual gang members in hip hop, and they're essentially talking about their lives and what they do on the streets and the people who they've killed and all this stuff. Like, we've talked about this many times on this show about how rappers are literally snitching on themselves by admitting the crimes in songs. We literally just did a story about this like 3 weeks ago about a guy who admitted to a murder on a song, and now he's been arrested for first-degree murder because he literally gave up himself in the song here. So to say that there's no correlation between the effect that hip hop has had in the black community versus the music itself, I think is outright disingenuous. And I will say this too: a lot of people were kind of pushing back on this because Ice Cube mentioned something about video games, and people get really, really defensive when you make this argument that, you know, hey, maybe there's something in video games that's causing people to be violent, and people will immediately push back on that, right? But here's the thing, and we've kind of been talking about this for the last few weeks. We do believe that culture has an impact on changing people's minds and shaping people's minds. Like, if we didn't, then there would be no point of us, pushing back about the things that, like, say, Star Wars promotes in their content, or Marvel promotes in their content, all these other big companies and their influences in their shows. If we didn't believe that there was a correlation there between culture and essentially our communities, whether it be the white community, black community, whatever the case may be, if we didn't believe that the stuff that Hollywood was pushing in the mass was actually changing people's minds and causing them to do things they probably wouldn't have embraced otherwise, then there'll be no reason for any of us to do this, because it'll all be just one big waste of time. We'd basically just be making criticisms about nothing if there was no truth to it. And I think Ice Cube is looking at the fact that now he's 30 years past, the rise of NWA, and there's a lot of people in his community that have embraced, a violent culture, a culture that, embraces death, that embraces violence, that embraces, a worship of money. And a lot of that stuff kind of was the jump off point was NWA. They were kind of, the godfather of all these subgenres of the music. Now, you can't say that he's solely responsible, but like I said, without NWA, would you have things like drill rappers today and people who would talk about, how much drugs they sell and how many murders they commit and things of that nature? And like, all of this stuff starts somewhere, and people are starting to point back to, well, this all kind of started with your group, and he's trying to like wash his hands of the situation, saying that no, that's not particularly the case here. And I feel like I think there's a little bit more to it at the end of the day. But I'm gonna go ahead and shoot this one over here to Cassie just real quick. What's kind of your thoughts on the whole Ice Cube situation with hip hop? Do you believe that this music is having a negative influence on the community at large?
It's no doubt that it has, had a very, very terrible effect on the community, because it's one of those things where these are real people making this music and being very open about doing heinous things and embellishing in it. And apparently that's seen as cool. I mean, even I listen to some, hip hop that's, very, very terrible. I mean, all sorts of stuff, man. And, it's something I grew up on. And to me, I never really necessarily took it seriously. I mean, I'm not a violent person by nature in any means, but did I like to listen to it even as a kid? Yes. But to me, it's something I knew was bad, and I would hide it from my parents and stuff like that. But I knew it was bad. But like, there's people growing up and that do in fact embellish in it, think that it's the norm and think that it's a way of life, and that's the mindset that warps someone's judgment into falling into that, thinking it's cool, thinking it's it's the only way to be, because unfortunately people grow up in very impoverished situations in which they have nothing, and with having nothing, you have nothing to lose in a lot of scenarios, and it does lead particularly Black people as well as even Hispanic people down some ugly paths and getting into some absolutely heinous things. And it's a shame, because I mean, while you can certainly attribute some of this culture to Ice Cube, it's one of those things where, like, you have to think of it from his perspective growing up. He came from nothing. He saw this as his avenue. He had a skill. He used it. He got into this business. So like, from that perspective, it's like, I mean, you can blame him. Yeah, it's a nuanced conversation, but at the same time, I mean, he was probably just a dude just basking in what he could getting his. And at the end of the day, I mean, to me, our government is fucking evil. I'm sorry. Like, it is what it is. You think that the government doesn't love the idea of Black people killing each other? Handling what they deem as the problem, them handling each other. Like, this is the type of government that, pretends that they're against this and whatnot. But really, are they? at the end of the day, didn't really care about any of us, especially people that come from impoverished neighborhoods. If anything, they want more of us to die. This is why it's promoted to go abort your child. It's promoted, particularly in impoverished neighborhoods, to do this, and because it's a really deep, nuanced conversation. Do I really want to go here and blame Ice Cube for this? I mean, you can on a surface level, but it's deeper than that, man. And he's just a part of the way that people in higher in places, position of power, use us all as pawns. That's just really what it is.
I just noticed Rob's sub tagline there, so now I'm gonna go to him, the hip hop connoisseur. What do you think about this whole situation about gangster hip hop?
Yeah, no, it's I'm definitely educated on the topic. No, look, I'm probably gonna have a bit of a different opinion here.
Mhm.
I don't know how much of Straight Outta Compton the movie is true. I'm sure a lot
Not
of
a
it's
lot.
fabricated. Yeah, but I do know that there was a pretty, a known producer that helped NWA put that album out. So he didn't do it alone. He had help. And I always say, look at the art, not the artist. I constantly advocate for individual responsibility, so that whatever art is produced, if it's not the person who created its fault for the actions of the person who commits a crime or does something fucking stupid. However, I was very naive about like hip hop and rap up to a couple of years ago, where I was just like, oh, it's just music. Like nobody takes it seriously. And it's like you read these fucking stories about people who committed murders, literally just murders, because they were gang affiliated, on top of having a recording contract. And it was just like, is this for real? And the more you look into it, the more horrifying it is. I watch ROTC. They had a few like female rappers. I mean, they're just like the most disgusting, degenerate kind of like, they have to out trash each other to be like the most lewd, the most lascivious, and it's just like
Every female rapper, just real quick, every female rapper since like Little Kim has been trying to raise the stakes and raise the stakes and raise the stakes. And it's like now we went from like Little Kim to Nicki Minaj, to Cardi B, the Megan Thee Stallion. And now I guess we're at what, Sexy Red now. So it's like we just keep going. We just keep upping the degeneracy one after the other after the other. It's been like that for a while.
Yeah, and so Ice Spice, what I've literally never heard one of her songs, but I see her all over Twitter, and it's just like I understand what's being promoted, but and look, I will fully admit, like, that is one disenfranchised community, so they don't need any more negative influences to sort of coexist with. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's a complete negative thing. And me being middle class, upper middle class, whatever, and being able to examine this from, the safety of my home is one thing. And then living in that place is another. So I certainly think that those people are put at a disadvantage, having that so prominently sold in their culture, that sort of hustle culture, get yours, fuck everybody else. You can't really grow a family with that kind of mindset.
Yep.
Take your kids to church. That's all I gotta say.
And actually teach them the Bible, not like Andy Stanley. But Orange Chat, what do you think?
Like I've been saying in the chat with Spence, I think it does have to do with more specifics, not just surface level. Like Cassie said, it's not about surface level. It has to do with basically the rappers and the content they choose to put out. Where, yes, Ice Cube in his earlier years was part of NWA, and all those rappers led to a rapid degeneration of society, where there are some rappers who turn their life around and also who are actually focusing on a more positive aspect of calling out the degeneration of society. And yes, I will actually use Tom McDonald as an example, because there are where a lot of people were starting to demonize
I'm
white
glad
people.
Rob's not here.
Yeah, where they were starting to demonize white people. He came out with his song "White Boy," where he actually called it out and people started to actually pay attention to him for a little while. Then he comes out with Straight White Male and whatnot. He's actually focusing, or he's actually doing his best to be apolitical. However, unfortunately, he has gotten a little bit more political. But it really does speak to what is your content about, and does it benefit society, or does it raise questions about society, where the rap of old has indeed led to a decay of society. And yes, Ice Cube is a part of that. He was an active part of that. Him trying to distance himself from it, the best way that he can do that is say, yes, I was a part of that, but no, I am not a part of that anymore. I am moving on from that chapter of my life. I've been trying to get away from that chapter of my life for a long time. And it just seems that a lot of other artists, I mean, does Dr. Dre even still rap anymore? Because last time I paid any attention to his was 2001, his album, where they literally talked about blowing up a dude in a car bomb and other things too. And it's like,
Well, I know he had a brain aneurysm like a couple of years ago, so I haven't kept up with him
probably
since that.
Dre's been retired. Who knows? But the truth of it is, yes, there is a lot of people out there who have gone into the rap scene and become shit people in society. Where, I mean, these are Dre and Snoop Dogg and them bragged in like Behind the Music and freaking MTV and stuff, where they've bragged about the crimes they committed in interviews. And then they also have other rappers who have actually tried to put a more positive spin on their stuff, who doesn't really go into the whole gangster rap thing. I mean, say what you will about Will Smith. I don't think he ever really went deep into the gangster rap. I mean, he may have dabbled into it a little bit, but that was about it. I don't really know everything about his whole rap scene.
Yeah, Will Smith was hated by guys in the gangster rap scene because he was viewed as like the more like clean, preppy type rapper, and they didn't like those guys.
They called him Barney rap.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me ask you, is that really a bad thing, the type of rap that he was doing, or was he trying to bring a more positive spin to it?
Well, let me ask Mark about this, because he actually knows a little bit about more of this than I do. I think when I started to, like, about almost 10 years ago, started to pull away from a lot of the aspects of like gangster rap, was when I discovered, to my ignorance at the time, that a lot of the beats and the songs that, you know, the 90s rappers were really popularizing back in those times, they were basically just beats that were like ripped off from like 70s and like 60s songs for like for the most part. So I started going back and listening to the original songs from the 60s and the 70s and figured out that I like these songs far more. There were songs that were based off of like actually like 60s soul music and 70s funk music, and I was like, yeah, you know, actually this sounds a lot better, and you don't have those violent elements to it as well. And then when I look at like the hip hop that I listen back to like, you know, the 80s style of like hip hop, more of like, you know, LL Cool J and Slick Rick and, you know, and guys like that, and I appreciated that more than even the old New Jack Swing, which is kind of more of a blend of, you know, R&B and or that 80s hip hop right before, you know, the gangster rap explosion back then. So do you still have this is a question for you, Mark, do you still have any kind of like affinity to the music that we used to listen to, or has time gone on where you've appreciated more of the music that inspired that music more than the actual music itself now?
I think both, you know, because like I said, being that, you know, I was around back then, it's like I was rhyming too. So it's like coming out of New York, we all did, you know, we all knew we wanted to be hip hop and all that stuff. But what it was is we listened to a lot of stuff that our parents listened to. So, you know, if your parents was listening to James Brown, then, you know, James Brown had some funky stuff. So a lot of times in the break, which is where the DJs would get a lot of their cuts and beats from, you know, you would come up with different ways of talking and rhyming over that, you know, and it was kind of funky because that's what our parents listened to, but we put a new spin on it. So, you know, it was kind of like that. So we always had that appreciation, you know, for the old stuff. I mean, Run DMC did Walk This Way. You know, it's like, I guess Rick Rubin, you know, he was a fan of Aerosmith, so he was able to bring that back. They also did Mary, Mary, you know, and it's tricky. I think was a breakdown of was it My Sharona? It might have been, and Beastie Boys did the same thing.
Yeah.
So, so a lot of that came from an appreciation of the old music, but the problem is that, like I said, we lost the image, because back then we were talking about Will Smith and whether he was trying to be positive. He was trying to be himself. It's like that was the rule back then. You were just expressing your individuality, and everyone was in a contest to see who could like talk the most imaginative or put the different words together. It was never about trying to say who was the hardest or who was the toughest and things like that. I mean, yeah, there was a certain braggadocious part of it, but what we have today, the danger is that over 85, maybe 90% of hip hop was purchased by white people, white suburban people. So once we lost the image, and you had the nerve to get on a record and say, I am an N-word, I am a criminal, I am a woman beater. Well, these white people who purchased your stuff could be a police officer. It could be a doctor, and this is how we lost our image, because it's much easier to believe when you see a black guy get his ass beat by a cop. It's much easier for us to believe right off the bat, without knowing the details, that he was probably up to no good, than it is to believe he was probably an upstanding citizen. And that's because we lost our image. So people find it easier to believe that we're up to no good, because those people, that 85, 90% of people who purchased hip hop, got all of that from us. We're the ones who fed to them that we're N-words. We're the ones who fed to them that we're criminals. What else are they going to believe of us? And that's the point that I was trying to make in my video. If we can't get control of our image, and that's the powerful thing about hip hop, I've always said, it was the first time in human history that black men had an actual, raw, true voice. Because we've always had people talking about us, people talking at us. This was a time for us to be talking for ourselves and expressing ourselves and who we are as human beings. But we took that and said, we're going to be some stereotypes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just that puts all of us in danger.
And just real quick before I get to Rick here, I think there's a difference here, because the argument that guys like Cube is always made, and guys like him from that era, is that, hey, look, we're just talking about the realities of what we grew up with, right? But I think there's a very fine line between talking about those realities and glorifying those realities, because if you want songs,
one thing there.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to say this. I have 10 uncles, all right, who grew up in Marcy Projects in Brooklyn, all right? They grew up in the worst conditions. And all of them would say, don't do what we did, or don't do what's out here. That is the truth of the message. All right. Nobody comes out and says, I'm going to reflect the streets and glorify it, who really lived it. You know what I mean? You're a traitor at that point, if that's what you do. All right. You want to direct the children away from it. You want them to do better than what you did. So that's the reason why I have to call a foul. Ice Cube, someone rightly pointed out, Ice Cube did not grow up in the hood. He went to a private school. The same thing with Tupac. These people are liars, and they're put there for a reason. And the sooner people wake up to that and understand that we got sold down the river, our lives were put in jeopardy. My son has to walk out in the street, and people look at him and think they know who he is based upon what they heard on a fucking rap record. I had to do the same thing when I was growing up, but that was a long time ago. I grew up with hip hop too. But now what he has to deal with, I worry about him, because he wasn't raised that way. He didn't come out that, of that environment. But because of what people hear on a record, they think, here goes one of them. Here goes one of those kids. I saw them on a video on Twitter, ransacking some store or whatever. He's finished before he even gets out into the world. He has to go against what all of these traders put on him. And that's, like I said, that's how I feel about that, bro. It's like there's no getting out of it. It's not Ice Cube's fault, but he played a role in it. He got caught up thinking that they're all trying to blame him for, just everything. No, it's not just, you just didn't do that, but you played a role in it,
And I will say one thing before we jump over here, because I want to catch up on a couple other stories. But yeah, I was talking about the difference between just talking about, the things that you grew up with in your environment versus glorifying those things. If you want good examples of just talking about your environment, go back and listen to Ice-T's Original Gangster, right? Where he's basically just telling the story about how he grew up in in LA, growing up in the music industry, realizing that trying to be like other guys wasn't him, and he realized that he needed to talk truth. So this was like his sound. This was like, his music. So that's a good example of someone who's just simply expressing themselves in music to talk about their environment. Public Enemy was also very infamous for this as well. They have numerous songs back in the day where they were doing that as well. So I think in the earlier part of that time period, there were a lot of guys who were just using music as an avenue to kind of be like, hey, look, this is what's really going on out here. This is what we're really dealing with. And I think after that got popularized and people really started to take off with it, they went from just talking about what happened in their neighborhood to glorifying what happened in your neighborhood. And that's where all the negative aspects of it, that when we started getting into, thug life and West Side and East Side and all that other stuff, and then people started getting killed, that's when we went completely off the rails. And unfortunately, it's only gotten worse since then. But I do have a couple
real quick.
real quick.
Picking up a bit about what Mark was saying, it's just been a wild change, because if you remember from the 1950s and 60s with Motown, what did Berry Gordy have? He had that charm school where his goal was to present the most positive portrayal of black men and black women when they were performing. They were dressed in suits, ties. You had the Supremes, the Martha and the Vandellas. They were always very glamorous, and they were very elegant, and they portrayed a very positive image of black men and black women. Now we've gone from the glamour and the beauty of a group like the Supremes into someone like a Cardi B or a Megan Thee Stallion, who seem to revel in being the most vulgar and the most obscene. So I think Berry Gordy understood that the music would influence, and he wanted it to be a positive influence in portraying a more
Well, he wanted to make
idea.
money.
That as well. I don't begrudge that.
Folks.
I don't begrudge
and you know
that.
what? And not to take away from what he did. It is extremely important, Berry Gordy's influence on music for, especially for Black America.
Yes, but the whole point of the charm school that he put them through was to make, to have a more positive image and to counteract the negative ideas that were around the 1950s and 60s of African Americans. Now, African Americans themselves are the ones who are portraying themselves in a very negative light, and it should be very concerning. If you're going to have the images, you have to bear the responsibility. Now,
which is funny, just real quick. It's like, because whenever you get like a white rapper who tries to do like the same thing that he sees from like the old gangster rap for like 20, 30 years ago, they get very upset because when white rappers do it, it looks like they're doing caricatures of black people, which makes them very upset. It's like, you can say that if a white rapper does it, but you guys are still unironically doing this yourself. So what does that say about you guys who are doing the same thing that they're doing too? So, but I do want to jump over to another topic here. Let's keep it in the eyes of music, because that seems to be the theme of the night. Britney Spears is nuts, and I think we've known this for quite some time. I don't know, maybe a lot of Britney's fans have been in denial of this for a while, but yes, this woman is, we like to say, nuttier than a soup sandwich. She is cuckoo bananas. She is one short of she's just fucking crazy. Let's just be very, very blunt here. This is a video that went viral, I think like a week ago or something like that, where she's looking horrible and doing like a dance with knives in her kitchen, and people were all like, hey, we should probably get the cops involved because this woman is off her rocker entirely. The cops were called to her home, and they did a wellness check. They refused to leave until they talked with her. She then went on a rant on Instagram saying that it's the police's fault and that the knives were fake, that these weren't real knives, even though you can hear them clanking in the video. So that's not a very good excuse there. Look, the whole reason why anyone's really talking about this is because over the last couple of years, people, for whatever stupid reason, have been fighting for this whole thing. Oh, we need to free Britney. Her dad is taking advantage of her and blah, blah, blah. And all her dad was saying is that she's nuts and she can't take care of herself. It was like, no, free Britney. Well, she's free now. And she's basically proving what everyone has known about her for the course of the last, almost 20 years now, because this isn't her first outbreak. She's been nuts for quite some time. And look, when you grow up in the Hollywood industry for a large number of years, especially your youngest years, you're bound to be screwed up because that town just chews you up and spits you back out with no regard whatsoever. So we shouldn't be surprised about what has become of Britney Spears, but this is in fact the reality. Cider, I'm going to start this one off with you. What is your thoughts about Britney Spears going off the wacko basket once again?
Once again, yeah. Honestly, we see this with Amanda Bynes. We see this with Jeanette McCurdy. We saw this with Macaulay Culkin, pretty much coloring most of his existence in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So it is Tom Holland most recently had a not fun time with Tinseltown.
We saw it.
And is now trying to run away from that place. So it's pretty obvious what happened to Britney. We hear these stories about Aubrey Hepburn being harmed by one of the Kirk Douglas or something like that, one of the black and white heroes there, beating the hell out of her and raping her. She wrote in her memoir
I think
about
it was
that.
Natalie Wood. And
Yeah,
Kirk
Natalie
Douglas.
Wood, not Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Natalie Wood.
that kind of shit goes on, and that's obviously what happened to Britney. Just being abused by anything. We know that Selena Gomez was passed around by Dan Schneider, the guy that ran Nickelodeon shows. And he forced Amanda Bynes through several abortions when she was like 15, 16 years old. Had her on speed on the Howie Mandel show. There's videos of it all over the internet of her being on speed on that show, just completely out of her mind. And that's just what they did. Imagine what they did to pop stars to keep them going across country. You got to remember, when Britney was at the peak of her power, right? The peak of Britney mania, she was like 17, 18, 19. She was like right there at the age where, that formative, what you know to be true about the world.
Yeah, I think she was 17 when Hit Me Baby One More Time came out. So,
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, like, imagine the horrible shit. And this is when Epstein Island was a very well-kept secret, where the president of the United States was going back and forth from there, Mr. Clinton,
Yeah.
Getting massages and stuff. So
Just real quick, like, obviously there's been a lot of talk about this little Tay person coming out and doing like a provocative music video, and she's only like 16, I think they're saying but we don't really talk too much about the whole thing with like Britney Spears. Like I said, I believe she was 17 when that video came out, and she was basically sexualized by every guy, and not only just Hollywood, but in the world at that time, because she's wearing a super sexy squirrel girl outfit, even though she was borderline underage at the time that video took place, and nobody really talks about that. But that was kind of the snowball that started her whole descent in the madness. Like I said, once Hollywood gets their claws deep into you, no one ever recovers from it. So the only way to avoid...
Wait, we got to tell you that Jonas brother and Hillary Duff, they ended up surviving, keeping their souls somehow. So...
Like Hillary Duff, I think it was like maybe the last escapee of the Disney Channel who didn't completely go off the cuckoo wagon. So I mean, there's that, right?
I mean, I saw her back in her 20s, then she disappeared for like a decade.
I'm trying to think of another Disney star that didn't end up completely obliterated.
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf's doing well.
Finally.
Well, I mean, it's obviously, it's very obvious that Britney Spears is unwell. There is an insane amount of reasons that you can attribute to that. The harassment, possibly things that have gone on behind the scenes, the paparazzi being up her ass at all times, constantly. Her father putting her on an immense amount of drugs just to keep her sedated. I mean, there is an immense amount of reasons. I completely did oppose the conservatorship, specifically because, the libertarian in me. I just find it very concerning that you can go send your daughter out to work to provide money to, the estate that you benefit off of, person that is the holder of conservatorship, and you could justify her being able to, make you your money, but you can't justify her being able to have control over her own health decisions, what she does in her daily life. Obviously, she does indeed need help. But you can't deny the fact that there are a lot of nefarious individuals. And I would also like to, voice the fact that her father had never given a fuck about her. Matter of fact, in Britney Spears' early life, her and her mother would go to, to audition for these things as a means of getting away from their father, her father that didn't really give a fuck about her. So for him to suddenly be the one to make the decisions of Britney Spears' personal life, it's concerning to anyone that understands the history here. Now, if it was someone that seemed to be more caring, more genuine, I think that, a conservatorship would perhaps make some form of sense. But you can't deny the, malicious malicious people around her, unfortunately, that don't seem to have her best intentions in mind. Her conservatorship seems to be like slavery with no real benefit to it.
So what I'm hearing is we need like a ranch to send these has-been pop stars to, so they don't hurt themselves or be taken advantage of. Kind of like what happened to Stan Lee when they took his blood out of his arm and put it into a bunch of ink mixtures, signed Black Panther comics with before he died. That kind of stuff.
I heard about
Put them on a ranch where they can't be hurt. They're free to roam. They can eat all the grass they like. It'll be great.
You make it sound like you're going to send them to the Scientology location.
No, I'm thinking like a fat farm, but for people who can't like tie their shoes.
Look, I would say, and I would warn against believing in the sentimental victim narrative. I think that there are certainly some questionable things about the conservatorship, and I usually land on in a libertarian place of the individual and their rights. She looks fucking crazy. Now I know that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You know what I mean? I know that doesn't mean anything necessarily, right? Overall care someone should be getting. So I think that maybe there needs to be somebody needs to step in. If she's a danger to herself, if she's a danger to those around her potentially, then somebody does need to step in. Maybe not her father, since he's shown to have been abusive as the person in charge in the past. So I guess that would be the solution. But that comes down to the state stepping in, and it's so weird for me to be saying this because I'm not in favor of the state ever stepping in, if at all possible. But this does seem like a situation where. Again, she's a danger to herself and those around her, and I don't know, somebody needs to, or something bad's gonna happen. That's
Dr. Phil. Send her to Dr. Phil's ranch.
There needs to be a scenario that is introduced in which the person that kind of has control doesn't have any direct financial gain to it, because that is the thing that makes it so scummy. When you're trying to say that Britney Spears shouldn't be allowed to have any.
Here's the problem with that, though. I get the point you're trying to make, but you have to also look at it from this perspective. Everyone involved in Britney Spears' life does not have her best interest in heart, no matter who you give it to. No one in her family, no one in her friends, nowhere in the industry. There's no one you can pass that ball to. Be like, okay, she's safe now in these hands. There's no one there.
I agree. That's the problem.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's worse than her being crazy. I think she's fractured. And I think we all know what goes on in Hollywood. You know what I mean? It kind of falls back to what Spencer was talking about earlier. It's like we just keep feeding that beast because we love to be entertained. But Hollywood is a severely sick place, and it's been that way. And it's really doing some terrible things to these kids. So I don't think that. I mean, it's possible that she's not capable of managing herself and her life. We like to believe that she is, but dude, she's juggling and playing with blades and stuff. There's no adult in the world where that's going to be like a good thing or natural, or you know what I mean?
And we forget she has children too. So throw that out there as well.
And also, from what I believe, she also recently had a what you call it when you lose your child,
custody.
No. Miscarriage. Thank you. Yeah. Also believe that she did in fact have a miscarriage too, so that definitely can warp someone's mental state as a woman naturally too.
My ex-wife had a couple of miscarriages back in the day. She never did this shit. You know what I mean?
No, I understand, but people would take that differently.
Stronger than
and you're
I'm just saying. I mean, coming out of the environment that she's in, I'm sure that doesn't help. You know what I mean? Especially if she's already, messed up. To actually also go through a miscarriage would probably aggravate that also. So I'm sure that plays a role in it as well. But I was saying that also, who was it? I remember Anna Nicole Smith back in the day.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the most eye-opening things I've ever seen, where I think we as a country back then watched this woman slowly die.
Yeah.
They gave her a reality show so we could all see her die. She was abusing herself. She was losing her mind. And people were actively making jokes about her on award shows. And I'm like, this really feels like it's demonic to me. Like if you see somebody in crisis, you're not making jokes on an award show. You're not giving them a reality show. But since then, this has become the norm. So you see things like this and you're like, yeah, I don't know how bad this is going to get before we just say, listen, we need to do something about this so-called showbiz thing. Because every reality show just gets more and more invasive and more offensive. But we just continue to laugh at these people. And it's weird, man. It's weird. I wish her well.
Favorite culture.
Well, I want to jump over to another story here real quick, because it's kind of in the same line that what we're talking about here. This is involving Dax Shepard. Now, Dax Shepard, if you guys know, has been in a few Hollywood films. Some of you guys may know him from movies like Idiocracy. I think he was in Chips not too long ago. He's been in Punk'd. If you've seen him, his face, you know exactly who he is. He got into an argument on a podcast that he did with a person who's called Jonathan Van Ness, who I think is like some big figure in like the LGBTQ community or whatnot. And I found out not too long ago that he actually has like AIDS, like unironically, not a joke. But yeah, so he got emotional during this podcast here, because barely Dax Shepard was kind of objecting to this idea of quote unquote trans kids, which has like been the big war battle that we've been fighting here over the last few years. And even in Hollywood, like I said, in a sick, twisted place like Hollywood, there's even some people in that industry that are looking at what's going on and saying, okay, are we going a little bit too far here? Like, is this over the line now? But so he was doing a podcast called the Armchair Podcast, and he had a debate about transgender kids. Now, this is a star from like the new series of Queer Eye. He's 36 years old. Obviously, Dax is 48 here. And they were talking about this whole idea of transition. Now, first, apparently, Shepard came out and said that he's not a big supporter of Joe Biden, thinks that he's saying that he's the best option that they got. Now, I don't know if Dax Shepard is, in fact, like, liberal or conservative. I'm just going to assume that he's maybe like on those like JFK type, progressives or Democrats, not really on the right side of this one, because I mean he is still in Hollywood at the end of the day. But they had this argument about trans kids, and this was keep in mind, this is from the New York Post, so they get very, very condescending here, because they tried to say that, oh well, Shepard used conservative talking points, merely challenging the questions of puberty blockers for children and hormones for teens. So this is the actual argument here. This is Shepard saying this. Says some people are very uncomfortable with teenagers transitioning. Says, how do we know that person's not going to change their mind? And this is another counter argument. If they kill themselves, then that's really permanent. To even question that makes you an enemy. I don't think that's the way forward. And then Van Ness, who's this person right here in the video. Yeah, exactly. He answers this. He says, I feel like I'm talking to my dad. He goes on to have kind of an emotional argument here. Says that there's so many things that are just more important that we're over here. Like, well, there's legitimate concerns about transgender athletes. He responded here, going down. That's Shepard on his show here. He says, all I'm saying is that we know about misinformation and disinformation, and when you have an outsized reaction to something, there's a good chance that you're being exposed to misinformation and disinformation. And a lot of the rhetoric about anti-trans backlash has a lot to do with misinformation and disinformation. He repeats that 3 times. I didn't just make that up. I'm not having a stroke here. Van Ness says that he added by finding it disappointing that so many people, about how many people realize that they're fighting for women when they exclude trans kids from sports. He says, I'm a non-binary effing trans person. When I talk to my dad or people who say similar things, it's hard to be cool through that. He says, telling Shepard about this whole conversation, I'm not calling you a transphobe. You can be transphobic and still have thoughts that expose trans misogyny and expose trans ideologies or beliefs and not be transphobic. That seems like a big word salad there. Another picture of this individual. I can understand maybe why he has a lot of disagreements with his dad, but that's a whole other conversation for a day. Then he went on to continue that I get a lot of little kids who aren't allowed to join groups talking about the LGBTQ work in the community here. I was bullied for my gender expression as a little kid, and there's a lot of little kids who aren't going to be Olympic gold medalists, and they don't want to be in the effing Olympics, but they're not going to play to the 90 to 99% of kids who want to play sport, who are trying to go to the Olympics, right? It says, honestly, I just came like to chat about my podcast. Tried to move around the conversation when he was actually answered about this. So he goes on here, but he doesn't really actually like address any of the points that Shepard made. And then he goes on to say that I did not intend to get into a debate about this about this with you. And he says I didn't want to do that. I adore you. I think you're hysterical and talented. I love that you're an activist. He said I can also cry having to fight for little kids that just want to be included. So he really just kind of completely like ducks the question here that hey, there are some legitimate concerns that you guys are getting a little too close to children here. But of course, like most people in this community completely backs away from it. Since then, there's been a lot of people in the media that have come out to attack Dax for even asking the question about whether this is something that we should be concerned about. I think Slate did an article attacking him, Rolling Stones, there was a couple other articles and outlets that attacked him as well. Keep in mind, this is a guy who simply asked a transgender binary gay dude with AIDS the question about whether we should be doing this with kids, and he's getting attacked for this because this is the way that our world works now. So yes, I'm actually start this one out with you over there in the bottom square. What do you think about Dax Shepard and this Jonathan Van Ness and their conversation here and getting heat for essentially saying that, hey, I don't know about this whole child transitioning thing you guys seem to be really into right now?
It's really hard to have a coherent opinion when you blur it with your personal experiences. I mean, if you are talking about the transgender population, it's less than 1% of America. And that would be like what's called a hasty generalization when you talk about stuff like this. So there's lots of logical problems with it. But I also think that isn't Dax Shepard like Kirsten Bell's husband when they have kids?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think it's very different looking at this argument when you have kids versus when you don't have kids. So, and I mean, everything that Jonathan Van Ness was saying, you could easily turn it on its head. There are women that are being bullied by non-binary and transgender athletes, and they're facing their own sort of injuries for being inclusive. I mean, like, this is one of those things where you cannot argue this sort of thing from a personal perspective without compromising your integrity.
Yeah.
Little you may have.
I just think that when he was losing the argument or not being able to defend his ideas, he starts to cry. And then he hides behind children. He literally hides behind children because he can't literally defend his own opinions. You know what I mean?
They're not even his own children. That's the thing.
But it's like, again, it's like this is, and again, I don't like to do the culture war thing for the most part. I don't like to do the left right thing. But a lot of people on the left do this. They say, oh, well, it's for your own good. It as Rick reminds us, well, if it saves one life, that whole bullshit where it's like they hold up some collective interest to basically force feed their propaganda down you and your kid's throat. And it's like, look, I am as tolerant, I think, as most people can be who have principles and who believe in things. In this interview, he is literally being intolerant. He's saying, I can't be cool through discussing my ideas with people who don't share them. And it's like, I thought you were the people that were constantly preaching tolerance and acceptance and understanding and compassion. Yeah. And yet you have none for the people that basically, have questions about you and your lifestyle. It's like you should be more than happy to answer those questions because it's like if you have nothing to hide, if you're wanting to sort of let people know that, you're not a freak, not a weirdo, and you have nothing to hide, then you should be more than open and transparent about those thoughts and those ideas. But this sounds like somebody who can't even present what his principles are as if he's hiding what they really are. Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to, like I said, personal integrity. You can't argue something personal, something as intensely personal as this, from a very specific instance to a grand, like one side takes all sort of thing. Now, especially like I said, I don't think he has a lot of room to stand on personally. Your own experience could be an exception,
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of what he was saying is like you could just turn it the other way around. So, and like, I mean, like just kind of like what you're saying too is like he's not being very tolerant of other people himself and his own sort of, he's backing into like his own privilege corner to sit there and cry. So good for Dax Shepard, I guess. So
Good, that much. Any final thoughts you guys want to have on this story here before we wrap it up for our closer? Is that a no from Cider there?
I just want to reiterate that if you don't have kids and you don't have a solid relationship with your birthing person, you know, you probably shouldn't have a good opinion on what's good for kids. So, I mean, like,
It's
look
safe
at
to say
Britney
you probably
Spears.
shouldn't be in any exactly. You probably shouldn't be in any level of authority whatsoever, especially when it comes to other people's children. So
Well, I mean, like I've been in this position where you're around kids before you have kids. Like I used to teach high school, so like I was around kids, and like I grew up in a community. But it's like when you have your own kids, it's very different. So sorry, you know.
yeah, long story said, don't let the AIDS activist speak for your children. He probably knows nothing about.
Well,
this
if you
whatsoever.
can't take care of your own self, you don't really have a right to go. And it's kind of like that Jordan Peterson thing, where it's like if you can't clean up your own room, you have no business trying to fix the world.
Yeah, not at all. Well, speaking of people who probably shouldn't be around children, let's go ahead and start with our closer here. Leslie Jones did an interview admitting that she had gotten not one, not two, but 3 abortions in her lifetime, and that those abortions saved her life, as she claimed. This is not a uncommon saying here with Hollywood, especially with people from the Saturday Night Live community, but we'll get into the story here. Apparently she's doing some kind of like memoir or book that she has coming out, and this is the press that she decided to use to promote this book, saying that she's had 3 abortions since the age of 18, and Planned Parenthood saved her life. So the actress, who I believe is like 56 now, if I'm not mistaken, or 59, she's almost 60, I'm pretty sure, but the comedian and actress Leslie Jones revealed in her memoir that she had 3 abortions by her mid-20s and credits Planned Parenthood for saving her life. She says that Planned Parenthood saved my life. I would still give them money to this day. When I went to Planned Parenthood, I learned how to prevent pregnancies and take care of myself. So this is another woman, again, shocker, who comes from a not so great home life. Apparently no one in her family ever told her, or her mother didn't tell her how to use contraception, so she had no idea what prevention actually was. She wanted to say that prevention is what we should be teaching. I said even if I had an inkling of how to protect myself, I didn't know anything about that stuff, even though she was very sexually active. But by my mid-20s, I had 3 abortions, and I thought, this is not a birth control method. Oh, you think that'd take you the 3rd one to figure that one out? Jones added that when she was a child, her mother had an illness that prevented her from teaching how to use birth control. I don't think this article elaborates what that illness actually was.
Like a coma?
You would think, right? That would be one of the few things. Maybe death was the illness that prevented her mother from teaching her this thing. So by the time Jones was 18 years old, she was pregnant with her first child, who was later killed without her parents' knowledge or support. It says with abortion, just having the idea of going to do this grown ass thing, and I didn't have my mom to help me. I didn't have anyone. Obviously, this is not the first time she has spoken out in support of Planned Parenthood. She's claimed that you would not know how much they saved my life. And it says so much. It says so much that I have my trust. It said that has how I've pretty much the services. Yeah. By the way, this whole article is written wrong because you see that there's that is repeated twice, which is why I was tripping me up. But it says to how much that needs to be one of the most important things. This is not the first person.
Talk like that.
I don't know. Like nobody, this world's so screwed. Like we don't need editors anymore. I mean, obviously we got Spencer. Our editors are not very good in 2023. But this is not the first person from Saturday Night Live who has come out and said this. If you guys remember, about a year ago, Cicely, what's her name? Strong. Yes, Cicely Strong came out and did a skit on Saturday Night Live. Where she basically admitted to the world that she had also gotten an abortion when she was 23 years old, and tried to use that skit to tell the story that had she had not gotten that abortion, that she would have never had her great career in Hollywood and be a supportive mother and all that's all like nonsense. So she's basically like using her abortion as an idol to say, see, if I hadn't gotten this when I was 23, I wouldn't be here where I am now, being on Saturday Night Live for many years and The only memorable skit she ever did was the one admitting that she had gotten an abortion. Michelle Williams did this at a Golden Globe acceptance speech a few years back when she was acknowledging that her abortion led her to get a golden statue from Hollywood for Best Actress. So I mean, there's definitely nothing nefarious going on here. Just Google Mohawk while you guys are on your free time, and then maybe some things about this will make some sense to you. But like I said, this is the
I just want to say this, and I'm sorry to do this to you fellas, but just the mere thought of Leslie Jones' spread eagle is what I'm having a hard time with right now. Like, I don't know who slept with this wildebeest
3 times,
with,
right?
But
3 times.
I just, I'm sorry, Mark, but this is the reality of what we're talking about. And second of all, I am gonna have to hop off of here because if I don't, this kid is not gonna go to bed. And we're gonna have a terrible morning. All right,
we get it, man. So go ahead and take the floor just real quick here, and tell everybody where they can find you here. Spotlight.
Oh speaking of wildebeest, but once again, I just want to thank you for having me on. This has been real. I love these type of conversations, guys. You can come by. Mark with a C is the channel. There it is, right there. You can catch me also on Twitter. And, I just talk about all of this stuff and more and, just try to talk about entertainment and social issues and mix them together because they are pretty much interchangeable these days. People are using the things that we love to make their little points and agendas and political views and stuff. So, I just give a little bit of pushback against that and encourage critical thinking. I try anyway, and I'm silly with it while I'm doing it. So come on by and check me out. But, thanks again, guys, and please get me off of here like this.
Thanks for giving us some time. Thanks for giving us an insight on some of these topics here tonight. Like I said, you're welcome back anytime, man.
Thanks. Much love, guys.
All right. Well, I guess now we're going to start this one off with Cider since he provided the meme for us again. So apparently this is what a much younger Leslie Jones looked like at the time. So, I mean, 3 times at that time period that we know of. I mean, those are only the 3 times she got pregnant. So God knows how many others were in between that time period. I'm assuming it was probably a lot. But yeah. So like I said, this is commonplace in Hollywood. And you keep in mind, there was this weird era before the last 5-10 years, especially like around Me Too time, where people at least used to pretend it like they didn't celebrate abortion, like it was something they tried to frame it as like a necessary evil for many years. It's like, well, this isn't something that we want to do, but I mean, if stuff happens, then I mean, it's just something that we're gonna have to do. And now we're just outright celebrating it. Like I said, you have women like Leslie Jones who are now admitting that they pretty much use abortion as a form of birth control because they didn't want to take responsibility for the fact that they couldn't keep their legs closed throughout their teens and their 20s. And I'm supposed to believe that this woman was like 25 years old and didn't know how to use a condom. It took her that long to figure out like how this whole thing works. So either she's just a complete liar or she's just trying to find a way to frame her immorality to the world and think that, oh, this is the angle that I'll use, not realizing what a complete and utter sociopath, psychopath she sounds like in the course of this whole thing. So Rob,
How many celebrities do you think like actually write their own memoirs though? So
very few.
Yeah, I mean, they're not that smart, let's be honest here.
So I just look, I actually really enjoy making fun of Leslie Jones every opportunity I get. I mean, she's a very large gorilla who really has no talent.
Damn.
And I'm sorry, she really is. She's okay. One of my favorite Bugs Bunny cartoons is when this massive gorilla picks up Bugs Bunny and puts him in a diaper and like treats him as her own baby, and he's desperately trying to escape the entire time. That's what I imagine fornicating with this woman would be like. So it's a perfect like mental picture for the story. Anyway,
too bad Mark didn't stay for that.
I would imagine this woman is lying just to promote abortion, but because really, like, why? This woman is both physically unattractive and she has a terrible personality. So I mean, what are you gaining by being in the same room with this woman for any length of time, really? But anyway, I think I'm done.
Yeah,
look,
I couldn't find a good video, a good clip to go off of what Rob was saying. This is like the best I got.
Who the fuck you think you talking to?
That's it. I gotta add more to the collection there, but
yeah, definitely gonna have to. Holy fuck, dude.
That's going
Holy
on YouTube.
shit. That's hard to follow. That's hard to follow.
Oh, God,
Personally, me, I covered Leslie with the whole bitching about Ghostbuster stuff, but that doesn't make it any better. Those pictures, that really doesn't. But 3 abortions, and she's saying that. I mean, she contradicted herself. Planned Parenthood helped me know what birth control is. Apparently not. You fucking had 3 abortions, and not only that, you're going to hell, woman.
No, unless you repent fast. You're definitely on the fast lane at the moment. So
yeah, she's on the highway to hell. But honestly, this woman is just so. The fact that the fact that anybody got with her, I agree with Rob to that degree. I'm not going to call her a fucking gorilla. That's just wrong. But the fact that anybody got with her in that way, I do feel sorry for them because it's like, hey, I nailed a celebrity. Yeah, you didn't nail a celebrity. You nailed Leslie Jones. This woman can't stop bitching.
This would be before she was famous, right?
Yes, I believe
True,
this would
yes.
be before this was
But
famous.
this woman can't stop whining about people liking a movie over a movie that she did. She can't let go of anything. So yes, her memoir is just basically her attempt to stay relevant today. There is no relevance to Leslie Jones. She should just shut up and freaking host Supermarket Sweep and continue just being irrelevant. Because honestly, nobody fucking cares about your abortions.
There are a couple of things here that are curious. First, I know Leslie Jones best, and I have this up from Coming to America, the sequel, where part of the plot involves her essentially raping the Eddie Murphy character because he was drugged and he did not give consent to have sex with her. And that's how she ended up pregnant and bearing his love child. So already that's kind of a really questionable plot. And it's not funny. It was really one of the worst movie I saw that year. So there's that. Second, the fact that she says that the 3 abortions saved her life. No, we always hear about how abortion is necessary if it saves the mother's life. This was not the case in any of the abortions that she had that I am at least that I'm
It
aware
saved
of.
her from the consequences of her own actions. That's what it saved her from.
Yes, but if she can't claim that it saved her life, as in physically or literally saved her life, if by the time she was 18 or over, because a first abortion I believe was when she was 18, if after that she did not realize exactly how she ended up pregnant twice more, I do wonder what she thought caused her pregnancies. Did she really think that it just came in the, if she just didn't wear her coat and went out into the rain? That is such an illogical thing to think. This person is
It's illogical if you have a soul. If you don't have a soul, then it makes perfect sense.
No, so this does not save her life. It kind of allowed her to have a career which is not well regarded. I don't think her time on SNL is thought of as a highlight. None of the movies that she has been in have been particularly good, if at all. So what exactly is she saying? That she's this is a great thing to have abortions after abortion after abortion? She should have known. I mean, perhaps when you're 18, I can kind of say, okay, you were unaware because your mother had about how procreation works, which is odd because I think almost all of us have had our parents give us that conversation, or at least we're taught this in school. Though to be fair, my sex education in school consisted of me watching Navy SEALs, so take that for what you will. So there's so much wrong with this story, and this is not something. No, I don't think an abortion should be something that should be celebrated. It is a very difficult thing to terminate a life. This
Well,
is
I
why
mean, like I
single
said,
abortion
unless
is-
you're giving a sacrifice to Moloch, it's something to celebrate. But I mean, there's
Well, yes.
that. But
So yes, when Michelle Williams was talking about that, how her abortion allowed her to have a career.
no, not just a career, but gave her a position to win a golden statue. Which, if you know references to the golden statues, it's not exactly a good thing.
It's not worth it. I don't think a human life is worth a trinket that will not, that will not be remembered.
Yeah.
And for the same with Leslie Jones, these are three lives that were eliminated. For what purpose? That is the question I always ask when it comes to abortion. You are eliminating a life for what purpose? What is the reason for it? For your own convenience? Well, then you really should. I don't think you need to have sex. It's not a requirement of life. It is optional. And if you're going to have sex outside of marriage, where you run the risk of pregnancy, there are more than enough available condoms and birth control pills. You do not have to go. Maybe 3 abortions. That seems a little excessive, but it's a very sad turn.
And just circle this back around to, like I said, was talking about like Cicely Strong, who did her quote unquote funny clown skit. It was like 2 years ago when this whole thing happened, where she admitted to having her abortion. And I think the sad part of that whole story, which a lot of people really catch on to, is that she's literally trying to cope with herself that she did the right thing, because she needed to do this in order to help her Hollywood like career. Like, you could see like a woman trying to justify her actions, but deep inside she still knows that that's wrong. Because if you really want to get like even more depressing, like, say what you want about Leslie Jones and like, her having kids and whatnot, she doesn't have any children right now. I believe she has no children, and she aborted 3 of them. Has she had kept the oldest one that she's talking about in this story, that kid would be 38 years old right now, and probably would have had kids of his own, which means that she would have been a grandmother right now had she had not gotten that abortion. Cicely Strong's child would have been 17. So you're talking about a child who probably would have been graduating like high school now. But these women think that giving up that life and giving up everything that comes with raising children is totally worth it in their minds, because hey, I got to spend multiple years on Saturday Night Live during an era of Saturday Night Live where nobody likes that show, where everyone detests the show, and they're always bringing out how much funnier it was 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. You want to go back even further than that? Like, these women are literally in a position where they know what they've done is bad, but in their mind they have to cope with a new reality of what their lives has become. Because if they're not, then they're probably going to break down and cry and realize what a terrible mistake they've done. And in Hollywood, let's just put it this way, they wouldn't be the first ones who Minecrafted themselves in real life as a result of their own crippling depression.
It's interesting that Leslie Jones, who was on SNL, is, I don't know if she wants to say celebrating her 3 abortions. One of the first major female star from SNL, Gilda Radner, she wanted children, and she unfortunately could never have them with Gene Wilder, though they did try. So that's an interesting dichotomy there, that the first major star, one of the still most respected stars from Saturday Night Live, was unable to have children. One of the least respected stars of Saturday Night Live had the opportunity to have 3, and she decided to terminate the pregnancy for what she believes to save her life, but that's not the case. It's not that I know of.
What about you guys? You guys have any other thoughts you have on this one before we wrap things up here?
I do. First off, I don't feel bad for the individuals who chose to, I hope had the choice of, at least choice of having sex with Leslie Jones. But what I don't understand is, why the fuck was your pullout game so fucking weak for this bitch of all people? Like, you telling me that you weren't trying to run the fuck away. I have a hard time believing that this was consensual, let alone you actually couldn't, like, prevent pregnancy. Like, so I don't feel sorry for these fucking idiots, because that, to me is ridiculous. But at the same time, yeah, the concept of actually trying to justify or like act like a severe mistake that you made was actually a good thing. And no, you're a fucking piece of shit. There's no way to justify that. And I speak as a person that knows 2 women that have had abortions, and this is when they were young and foolish, and they happen to absolutely regret it. And it was just, a one-time deal, and it is the greatest regret of their lives. So, in that, everyone here, I think, can admit they were young and stupid. Some people have unfortunately faced greater consequences, depending on how stupid. So, while to all Leslie Jones has proven to me is that she's old and still fucking stupid, if not even more fucking stupid. So, and the shame is it costs the potential lives of three people. And the fact that I think my greatest criticism of society is that we do not value life at all anymore. And it is concerning to me. And while I'm not a person, I'm not necessarily anti or pro abortion. I don't think that everything should be entirely made illegal. But I think that we as a society do indeed need to come together and learn to value life, so that abortion is as rare as it could possibly be. Because this to me is the biggest concern for anybody, within my lifetime. And
I think, like I said, what we were saying earlier, that's the way that abortion was presented to the public several decades ago. It was the idea that this was a necessary evil that needed to be done in emergency situations, or if the woman didn't have the support of the parents or the husband or the father or whatever the case may be. And now we've all come to the realization that that was all just one big lie, that they were basically using this whole thing as a get out of jail free card from their actions. And now
I can't necessarily say that it's a lie, like in a part of everyone's, situation. I will say this, that everything can be abused. And this is clearly a situation in which abortion is being abused to the umpteenth degree. Now, is it definitely a lie? In some scenarios, certainly. You're gonna sit here and try and convince me that that a government that apparently claims to just want to give money to everyone doesn't love the idea of people in impoverished communities willingly killing off their own children. You have a hard time convincing me that that a government isn't in support of that. So there's definitely nefarious means around this that are intentional, but I don't think it's necessarily in every given situation.
Like I said, I think there are situations like what they've talked about in the past, but when you actually look at the numbers, those situations have always been more of the exceptions to the rule than the actual rule itself. And they've kind of moved their agenda based on the exceptions, not what they're actually doing. Like I said, a lot of things that they present to us, they'll find some kind of angle to make us be like, oh, okay, I mean, if that's the case, I don't really see a problem with it. And that's kind of like their foot into the door, right? And now because so many states over the last few years have been rolling back on this whole thing, it's like, okay, we see what you guys are really doing with abortion, we need to pull all this back. Now that the mask is coming fully off and they're showing you exactly like who they are.
Yeah, I mean, these people do not value human life whatsoever, and that's what I said, the biggest factor in this entire scenario. And to be honest, in most things that are, I guess, politicized in modern day, we don't value human life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
One thing I will say as a final thought, Leslie Jones basically partook in the original design of Planned Parenthood. What's her name? The original owner,
Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, that one. Her entire plan was to eradicate the black race, and she figured the best way to do it is to help them get rid of unwanted pregnancies, therefore they don't breed, therefore they cannot continue their bloodlines, and therefore systematically and generationally wipe out an entire race of people. So congratulations, Leslie, you took part in her original design. Now, I'm not saying that it actually is going to eventually happen. I mean, black people are probably going to live a lot longer than a few more generations, or humanity's basically going to die all out at once, in my opinion. But Yeah, you basically took part in the original plot, and honestly, or a woman has, or the whole "my body, my choice" thing. That is a discussion for another time. Safe, legal, and rare is what it was always supposed to be. However, it has been blown way too far out of proportion.
Absolute facts.
All right, yeah, I mean that's just pretty much the way that story goes. Like I said, 3 times that we know of, and like I said, my big takeaway here is that I don't really have much sympathy for the women for doing what they've done and essentially trying to use this as like a platform to say that, oh, this is great, it's totally helped my career. Look at how much like money I make. Look how successful I am. I do kind of look bad for them on a human perspective because even though they're trying to put out like a big, smiley face, like I can see the pain like in their eyes, especially
You're
that
a lot
whole
nicer
thing is
to
like.
me about it. I couldn't give a single fuck about it.
Like I said,
Honestly
it's
speaking.
very.
I even think
Go ahead.
it's just. Well, I mean, like she gave up 3 children for SNL. I mean, that sounds like an SNL.
Hey,
skit.
Ghostbusters 2016
Coming
Like-
to America.
There is no Ghostbusters 2016. There is a 2016 attempt at Ghostbusters. Don't ever call it Ghostbusters 2016.
Well, it's supposed to be
It's
Ghostbusters
non-canon.
as the call now, but I mean, like,
It doesn't exist.
It saddens me to think that. First of all, it saddens me to think that she had to give up these children because she was just too weak to handle them herself, or couldn't give them up for adoption.
So we promote like women being strong. Apparently, the irony, right? Fucking joke.
Yeah, well, and then it is further ironic, like Orange Set was saying about how Margaret Sanger wanted to eliminate the black population, and that's why she started Planned Parenthood. And just that's I mean, how many lives do you have to destroy to get the fame that you want? I'm always kind of appalled by people that like just say, "Oh, that's okay because they're hers," and it's like, no, they're their own people, they're their own bodies.
I can appreciate someone that is like, I made an absolute terrible mistake. At least admit to it. I'm not
Yeah.
CD.
I agree. She should have
I've-
had some kind of remorse for this.
Exactly. At least acknowledge that what you did is absolutely terrible. And, whether you regret it or not, I mean, that's between you and the higher power.
And look, this is part of the struggle too, because I understand Cassie's point too of being like, no, screw her and everything she stands for, because she's literally sitting here talking about, yeah, Planned Parenthood saved my life, while she's talking about the fact she aborted 3 kids in her lifetime, right? So yeah, my life was spared, but not the life of my 3 children, and it's just like
The delusion and the dramatic irony.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Just for the record, and this is I was trying to remember. There was I don't want to say it's a Hallmark movie, but there was a movie about Margaret Sanger, Choices of the Heart. That what it was called. Choices of the Heart, the Margaret Sanger story. And,
I haven't
I'm
watched
trying to
it,
think-
and it sounds awful.
Was Meredith Baxter Burney in it, Rick?
Huh?
Did it star Meredith Baxter Burney?
No, it starred Dana Delaney.
Oh, I love
You
Dana
wanna know what
Delaney.
Margaret
She's
Sanger's
great.
Choices
She's
of the
on
Heart's for?
TCM all the time.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Orange.
yeah. This was a TV movie.
Her choices of the heart were, yeah, we're gonna get rid of all those filthy, you know what? That was her
No,
freaking
it's more like
choices of the heart
choices
right
of
there.
sellers for the baby heart. So
Yeah, damn it, I need to add more buttons to this thing. I'm gonna work on that before our next show.
She was a pioneer
Always
for
have
women's birth control.
That's
And
right.
She opposed abortion. Is what it says here on the plot
I-
synopsis.
Yeah.
She was just
I'm sure that's
about-
what they want you to
She
believe.
was just
She did.
about birth control, but choices of the heart. Isn't that a lovely title? Choices
No.
of the heart.
woe to those who call good evil
Yep.
and evil good.
And with that,
Yeah,
I guess
get it
we're
right,
gonna
Jim
go.
Harrison.
I guess we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up here for the night. So I want to thank all of our guests who joined us tonight. Mark with a C, who joined us a little bit ago. Spencer, who I'm pretty sure better be working on my next article, as many times he's been arguing on my fucking show. But outside of that, we're gonna go ahead and give the floor to you guys and give a chance to people who have their own stuff that they want to promote. So this guy has changed the name of his show to just Orange Hat now. So there's that. What do you got? Work coming up?
Well, I'm doing Tuesday theme streams. Tuesday or October is Aliens versus Military. So next week, or I just did Battle Los Angeles, and next week is going to be Predator 87. Also, later this month, it's October, so it's obviously Halloween. So ones and twos on my friend Mars' channel are going to be covering Halloween 1 and 2. And for the singles, we got Silver Bullet and Bram Stoker's Dracula. My Sundays are now, instead of MCU Sundays, they are Book of Wick Sundays. We are covering John Wick chapters 1 through 4. And other than that, I'm doing as much to get content out. I'm still trying to get my watch time up to 4,000 so I can be fully monetized. And yeah, just sub to my channel and check out my content.
All right, then we're gonna jump over to our buddy Cider going on here. What's going on while you're out there in the abyss?
In the I didn't know that. If I manage
That was
to
timed
survive-
perfectly, by the way.
If I manage to survive the next ringing of the bell here for who the bell tolls, right?
Clip that.
I'm over here on the Dank stream with John Delarose. He's interviewing Vox Day tomorrow. So drop by and say something, I guess. If you like him or not, I don't know. And I talk obsessively about Power Rangers on my own channel on streams. And yeah, and I'm Cider Hype anywhere you want to look it up.
Yeah, we actually had an interesting conversation on, what was it, Sunday, regarding the new Netflix Power Rangers series,
Yes,
which is just a
Cosmic
complete
Fury.
dumpster fire.
And it was the last one. There's no more Power Rangers after this. It's over.
Yeah, there will never be another Power Ranger series ever again. Hint,
Just like there's no more Star Wars.
It's over for good this time.
All ogre with.
For reals this time, guys. We're super serial. Cassie, what do you got coming up, my friend?
Oh, definitely gonna have a live stream this Thursday. Just laughing at the gaming going down the gutter. But if you want, I just dropped 2 videos today talking about Spider-Man 2, the upcoming PlayStation game that's coming out like in a couple of weeks. And apparently people don't like that the game is apparently short. So that's interesting discussion in gaming, especially with the prices of video games going up. And also, Bungie decided to virtue signal using basically laying down Hispanics on the altar of sacrifice for their virtue signal. And yeah, I was pretty annoyed by it because I'm tired of it. But yeah, I just dump on them for that if you want to check that out. Definitely gonna, I don't know what I'll have going on. Eventually I'll do something. So I wake up in the morning and think about it, and then it ends up coming out at like 5 p.m. or something like that. So yeah.
Like what comes out at 5 p.m. because that's a very odd sentence to end it on. Yeah. Just saying that you might want to take some Pepto-Bismol for
Talking
that.
about content, sir. That's not content.
Oh yeah, I mean, it depends on what site.
But it's a different
Maybe
type
on
of content.
4chan is content, but not.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to.
Let's jump over to this guy.
Yeah. Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, I'm Rob Motto. I have a ridiculous Twitter. Go follow it. I actually know who Vox Day is. Unfortunately, I started following ROTC when they were making fun of Owen Benjamin and Vox Day and all that bullshit like 5 years ago now. So
wow,
that's a lot of fun. No, I'm just in the middle of watching a lot of horror movies, a lot of like horror like TV shows, The Twilight Zone. It's just kind of fun to get back into that genre of movies, TV shows, just because it's not normally my bag. So I will be kind of actively getting into that, but just I can't avoid normal movies either for the whole month, so it's just going to be a mixed bag. But I am trying to watch more horror movies.
I literally
You
just
cut out
watched-
there, but I'm just gonna assume you said horror movies. So
Yep, Teddy Spaghetti. Yep.
I watched Possession, a movie that came out in 1981 with a few of my friends. It was fucking dreadful. I wanted everyone to die from the very beginning.
So that's a movie that's been recommended to me, and I've been told it's absolutely like bonkers, insane, crazy,
Yes.
off the wall. Like it's not necessarily a horror movie as much as it's about being in a marriage that makes you absolutely fucking insane. So I don't know.
That is a horror, so
Okay, fair enough.
well, hopping over to this guy over here, what you got coming up, Rick?
Well, I've got my reviews. I've got my haikus. I'm starting a new series. I don't know why. I'm going to review every episode of Life with Lucy.
Okay.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. But I just
Old move. Cotton.
Johnson, what do you got coming up this week?
Hey. So I just got my comic book that I wrote and stuff up on my website. So go buy it. Give me some money. And I don't know. I think that's it.
Are we gonna ignore the fact that Rick promotes himself as though he's a middle-aged white woman? Just saying.
Yes, we are going to ignore Rick as much as possible on this show because
I'm not middle-aged just yet. Okay. So.
well, I'm not quite middle-aged yet.
He's middle-aged.
Okay, buddy.
Anyway,
Favorite movie
so
is Casablanca. So
letting you guys know what we got coming up this week. This Friday night, we're doing Friday Night Movie Club, and we're going to be watching a film called Can't Hardly Wait. It's going to be a pretty fun show. So here's what's going to happen for this show. The first 30 minutes of that show is going to be right here on YouTube. You'll be able to watch it here with us. We're going to talk about a few topics before we go live, and then we will watch the actual film itself on Rumble and on Twitch. So as you have in the link in this video right now, if you're not subscribed to Rumble, if you're not subscribed to Twitch, go subscribe to those outlets right now because those will be the only ways that you can watch the show with us live on Friday night. So that's how we're going to be doing it. Can't Hardly Wait with Jennifer Love Hewitt and a bunch of other 90s celebrities. So we'll have a fun conversation with that one. This coming Monday night, Cassie, you're definitely going to be here. I'm pretending like you have a life. This Monday night, we're going to be doing, I think, part 3 of our series of Do Not Love the World for Bible Lens. Last night we did basically on discord and hatred and dissension. We had a pretty good conversation on last night's show. This Monday night we're going to be talking about the sins of lust and how the world that we live in promotes lust at levels that we have not seen before in human history. So that's going to be a pretty important one for next Monday night show. And then of course next week here on the podcast, episode 69 of the Barroom Podcast, which means I'm going to have to find some really borderline content for next week's show because it's 69 and we probably have to do stuff like that, I guess, because it's a bit. So we'll have some fun there next week here on the show. But like I said, Friday night, definitely want to join us Friday night. Make sure you follow us on Rumble and on Twitch in the description below here so that you guys can follow us for that show. Until then, I want to say good night to all of our people who have joined us here on the show: Rob, Sider, Johnson, Cassie, Orange, Rick, and then of course, like I said, Marcus Spencer as well. To everyone who joined us in the chat, I'm gonna give you guys a quick little shout out: Alex vs. Evil, Doba Fett, Neozoic, Awesome One, Twitless. Who else do we have on here? Don't Let Him Burn, Kate, obviously, Leslie Tarkin. I think I said Duke Nukem already. If not, I'll just go ahead and say your name again. Ein and Prime Investigations joining us here tonight. Who else did I miss on our show? Well, hopefully I got everyone. Drax the Clown, obviously. JAC, give a shout out to you. I think I said Tactus Jones already. Vanya, definitely a shout out to you for joining us here on the show tonight. And for everyone else who joined us, thank you for joining us on another Tuesday night. Hopefully we will see you guys on Friday night. Friday night, this is going to be a fun one. We're going to have a whole group of people on here for Friday night show. That should be a good one. If not Friday night, Monday night. If not Monday night, we'll see you guys next Tuesday night here on the show. Until then, we're hitting the outro. No spring yard to Josh's descent, but we are out of here. Good night, everyone. Goodbye. Peace.
Bye.
It's over.
Later.
Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Okay. Get out! Get out! You get